subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
A few more girlfriends and pass on your powerful Superman genes? Come on, tell me. You don't look confused at all. You must have your own ideas. Come and satisfy my curiosity, brother. Tony followed the good temptation. Anyway, if I had this ability, I would date 10 cover girls in one night and then fly out of the Earth to see if there are any aliens in the solar system. It would be best if I could meet a few more alien beauties. Leon laughed dumbly. This is indeed what Tony would do. I'm afraid there are no beauties in aliens. Only alien facehuggers waiting for you. He also joked along. I'm different from you. I actually don't have that many ideas. How I live my life in the past will be how I live my life in the future. I used to be the second young master of the Stark Group. Wherever I went, I met smiling faces, and all the people in the world gave me kindness. Now that I have become stronger, this will not change. I have no reason to do bad things at all, don't you think? Yes, that's great, kid. Tony nodded, his eyes filled with relief that my cub has grown up. Leon took a deep breath. Tony, if you look at me like this again, I will definitely beat your A with the slippers that Pepper just bought. I'm just your brother. Don't always think of me as your son, okay? Now Tony was unwilling. Leon, look at how sensitive you are. Come on, maybe we can have a drink to make you feel like an adult. What you're saying is that I'm not an adult. So how can I still be like you? Leon and Tony clinked glasses, but they didn't fall for the trap in Tony's words. He continued, I haven't finished what I just said. While I don't plan to change my daily routine, I will start on a different path. What way? Tony straightened up in the water, chasing the road to becoming stronger. Leon drank the red wine in the glass in one gulp. That's it? But you are already strong enough. Tony was stunned. There is no kryptonite in this world, and there is no one you can't beat. So why do you need to become stronger? Leon smiled and said, Not now, but there will always be in the future. Tony was non-committal. Then how do you plan to become stronger? Continue to bask in the sun? Leon shook his head. Of course I need to be exposed to the sun, but there is a limit to the height I can reach just by relying on the sun. So I plan to improve my strength from many aspects. Learn magic, learn Qigong, and then learn scientific knowledge. Then when I have enough knowledge, maybe I can increase the upper limit of my body by studying genes. The bright moon was reflected in the water, and Leon gently clenched his fists in the water. Researching genes? A super soldier serum like Captain America? Tony had a bad feeling. That thing shouldn't be useful to you, right? It's really useless, but what I want to study is my own genes. Leon looked at Tony. It's Kryptonian genes. Tony was stunned for a while. Then his expression changed. Are you sure you want to do this? Those who study Kryptonian genes in the comics end up creating a day of destruction. It can be seen that Tony has indeed read a lot of DC comics recently and knows about Doomsday. That is the biological weapon of the Kryptonians. It only knows how to kill and will only bring destruction to the world. Even Krypton itself cannot master that power. Tony looked serious. This is not a smooth road, nor is it a broad road. If the genes of Kryptonians were so easy to study and they had so many super brains, everyone on Krypton would have become gods long ago. Leon, maybe you have to think about it again. You don't have to study genes. There are many ways to become stronger. I can find them with you. Leon shook his head. I will try other methods, but I will not give up starting with genes to fundamentally improve strength. With a headache, Tony submerged himself into the water and washed his face. He is now like one of those parents who are faced with their rebellious teenagers. All they want to do is try to persuade them, but they don't know where to start. In this case, Leon, have you ever thought about what would happen if there was an accident in the research and you became the Doomsday? Tony guided and said, As I said just now, no one on Earth can stop you. You can do whatever you want. And if you like this become the son of destruction, what will happen to the Earth? Is there no other ending besides destruction? You are a little extreme now, Leon. Leon looked at Tony blankly, lost in thought. Tony is actually a relatively radical person in the original movie. He will never retreat when it is time to forge ahead, and he will stick to his decision when faced with major decisions, just like the birth of Ultron and the Civil War in Avengers. Part of the reason why these incidents occurred is that Tony's personality is too radical and he never looks back once he has made up his mind. And now, Tony, such a radical person, is actually telling him that he is a bit extreme. This forced Leon to start to reflect on whether he was indeed reckless for the sake of power. Okay, I admit, directly studying Kryptonian genes is indeed a bit extreme. After a long time, Leon nodded slowly, letting Tony breathe a sigh of relief. But the next second, Lion changed the topic. However, after I get some kryptonite, I will still start this research. Tony's eyes widened. Wait, kryptonite? There is kryptonite in our world? Are you kidding? Of course we don't have it in our world. Leon glanced at Tony strangely. I'm talking about going to the DC world to get some kryptonite. Now Tony was confused. When we get to DC? No. Are we ready to start talking about the content of our dreams at night? I'm serious. Leon shook the empty wine glass. I have a hunch that my time travel ability should be able to travel to the DC world. So when I get the kryptonite, I'll put it in your hands. I'll really become Doomsday. You can kill me. Tony simply ignored the second half of Leon's sentence. He was confused. Let's not talk about kryptonite. Time travel? Do you still have this ability? Does the DC universe also exist? Although it is theoretically possible, Leon's head was full of black lines. I remember telling you on my birthday that I had awakened my Kryptonian bloodline and my ability to travel through time and space, but you didn't believe any of it. In fact, Tony never believed that Leon had awakened his Kryptonian bloodline. I just think he has a genetic mutation that makes him stronger in the sun. It was Leon who came back from the universe this time and showed more and more abilities similar to Superman. Only then did Tony believe it. However, another time travel ability that Leon mentioned at the beginning has been forgotten by Tony. Chapter 22, 3 Things. I remember now. Tony pretended to suddenly realize. In other words, you can also travel to other worlds? Well, that's right. Leon ignored Lao Deng's pretentiousness. This guy just forgot. My God, you are such a little genius. Now you have proven the theory of parallel worlds, or the theory of different worlds. Tony was startled, but then he looked sincere and sincere. When you travel across the world, you must take me to experience it once. Also, if you want to find kryptonite, you have to take me with you. Tony knew that he could no longer persuade Leon, so he directly chose to join. At least when you're turned into an ordinary person by kryptonite, I can take the opportunity to kick you. Leon was used to this kind of awkward concern. After thinking about it, he didn't refuse directly. We'll talk about it then. Okay, the topic of pursuing power is over for now. Seeing that Tony wanted to say something else, he changed the subject. Let's go back to the house first. Later we have to talk about what I said before and what I have wanted to do for a long time. Half an hour later, Leon and Tony sat around the lab bench. Tony was wearing a bathrobe, and his expression became more and more solemn as he listened to what Leon said. There are only 3 things I want to do when I come back this time. Leon raised his finger, as if asking Tony to help him take the lives of 3 people. The first thing is to deal with Obadiah. This goal has been achieved. I have always emphasized to you that he has a problem, and this time it has been proved. The second thing is to deal with the 10 Rings gang. They kidnapped you. Then I will help you kill them. I will start taking action tomorrow. The third thing is to investigate the truth behind the death of our parents. Everything was fine up front, but when it came to the third thing, Tony couldn't sit still. The truth? What truth? Didn't they die accidentally in a car accident? Leon couldn't directly say that he already knew that the murderer was Bucky, the Winter Soldier. There is no basis for this, and he has no evidence. Besides, his target isn't just Bucky. Only the entire Hydra combined is worthy of letting him show his strength. I've always suspected it. Leon put his hands together to support his chin very deeply. I wonder if it was really a car accident. Why didn't I, the most vulnerable, die, but they did? Leon, that's because the car was on fire and they couldn't get out. You were thrown out and your neck was wrapped twice in a baby wrap. Tony's thinking was unexpectedly clear at this time, but there was actually a faint impulse in his heart, and he wanted to believe everything Leon said immediately. Perhaps he has been waiting for a long time for someone to tell him, "Your parents' death was not an accident." 18 years ago, he was out of town when the couple died and was having trouble with Howard. When he received the news of his death, he was still thinking that he would return to Los Angeles after a while. The face of the old man at home was really annoying, until someone handed him the seal with the death notice written on it. Only then did he realize that something was gone forever. How much he wanted to vent. He was filled with endless anger towards himself and even towards the death notice. Over the years, Tony has accepted the fact that his parents are dead and has developed a peculiar habit of never taking anything from others. But deep down in his heart, he may have been longing for someone to tell him, "The death of my parents was not an accident." In this way, he might be able to legitimately seek revenge on the murderer. The anger towards the past self that is hidden under the playboy appearance can also be vented. But the more this happens, the more Tony understands that he must investigate everything clearly and not affect innocent people. In the caves of Afghanistan, he learned not only battle armor, but also respect for life. On the surface, it seems like this, but there is another possibility. Leon stared into Tony's eyes. The baby was also going to die. The cloth wrapped around his neck had already killed him, but the murderer who faked the accident scene and left didn't know that there was Krypton hidden in the baby's body. Bloodline. Leon couldn't figure out why he could survive that accident before. The controlled Winter Soldier cannot have the idea of respecting the old and loving the young, unless it is a mistake. But how could such a killing machine fail? It wasn't until Lion awakened his Kryptonian blood that he suddenly realized that it was not the Winter Soldier's mistake that saved his life, but the blood hidden in his body. Although he did not awaken, it also gave him a stronger vitality, allowing him to survive the disaster. Leon's words struck through Tony's mind like thunder and lightning. You mean? His mind was rumbling. Leon didn't care about Tony's gaffe and continued. When I was a child, I also thought this conjecture was very unfounded. Obviously, all appraisals have agreed on the fact of the accident. Why do I still make groundless speculations? But after awakening my ability, I knew that the guess might be correct, and it was the truth that I subconsciously believed. Although the memories of the accident were not retained by my immature brain at the time, they were also etched in my subconscious. This sentence is quite true. After awakening his superbrain, Leon had some hazy perceptions of some things that happened before he was 1 year old, but it was not clear. Human memory is a very wonderful thing. The brain relies on neurons to transmit excitement, thereby engraving scenes in the memory storage area. Before he was 1 year old, Leon's brain was very immature and his neurons were not fully developed, so he was unable to imprint complete memories. Therefore, even if he awakens his superbrain, it is impossible to retrieve those memories that do not exist in the first place. He can only vaguely flash some scenes and images in his mind. But these are just physical explanations. In a world like Marvel with mysterious powers, maybe tomorrow or maybe one day in the future, Leon will be able to retrieve all the memories he had before he was 1 year old. Leon's tone suddenly changed. In the past few days since I came back, I haven't given up my pursuit of this matter. I have found out the truth, Tony. Are you telling the truth? Tony stood up abruptly. His pupils gradually dilated, and he began to reveal surprise and anger. Leon's tone did not change. My super hearing found them. The murderer is one of theirs. Who are they? Tony already believed it. His tone was as cold as a knife. Hydra. Leon finally gave the answer. Impossible. Hydra has died. That is the last chapter in history. Tony subconsciously questioned. He completely believed what Leon said, but he still felt unbelievable. They are dead, but only temporarily. If Hydra cuts off one head, two will grow back. They have been resurrected. Leon's direct spoiler. I've checked a lot of confidential files of secret departments in the past few days. Discovered behind the world's major international official organizations. There's a secret organization that is unknown to the world and takes orders from the International Security Council. They are called the Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. I call it SHIELD for short. and their headquarters is located in New York. The predecessor of this organization is the Strategic Science Corps established by our father and others. In Project Paperclip after the end of World War II, they recruited some talents left over from Germany after the demise of Hydra. And these talents have never lost their loyalty to Hydra. Tony could already guess what happened next. So, these people later lay on S.H.I.E.L.D. and resurrected Hydra. Leon nodded. Yes, that's the fact. Hydra wants to assassinate our dad because they want to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D., and Dad is one of the leaders of S.H.I.E.L.D. and is blocking the way. Tony sat down again slowly and pursed his lips. How many Hydra people are there in S.H.I.E.L.D. now? Does the director know about it? The next second, Leon's words made him stand up immediately. There are tens of thousands of people in S.H.I.E.L.D., and most of them are Hydra. The former director was also a Hydra, but the current director is not. But he is even more Hydra than Hydra. What? Tony exclaimed. Does this mean that this organization is basically affiliated with Hydra? Chapter 23, Punch Away. That's not true. Leon pointed to his ear. Judging from the information I've heard in the past few days, the main people in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. are fine for the time being. The people in Hydra are just the backbone and elites. Just the backbone and the elite? Tony was speechless for a while. How different is this from everything? The organization founded by his father was just handed over to the enemy by those idiots. He paced back and forth beside the workbench. No, Leon, it is our responsibility to solve the problems left by the old guy. We must destroy this organization. I agree. Leon has no objection. Anyway, this organization has no strength, but always fantasizes about being the savior. I can't stand it either, and this is consistent with my revenge plan. Leon waved his hand at the holographic projector, which projected a picture of Nick Fury. Nick Fury, the current director of S.H.I.E.L.D., is extremely controlling and wants to take the security issues of the entire world into his own hands. It sounds like he does resemble Hydra. Wait, why isn't he Hydra? Tony asked. I don't know. Maybe his former director is worried that he will threaten his status after joining the organization. Leon waved again, and a file package popped up on the screen. This is the list of Hydra members within S.H.I.E.L.D. that I compiled and packaged. I have put all the evidence and identities in it. Tony, you can then find a way to send this document to Nick Fury to cause chaos among them first. Remember, don't just let Jarvis send it. They will trace it back. Then when they're almost in chaos, we will release these documents to completely expose Hydra. The whole world will spontaneously stand against Hydra. We can take this opportunity to find out the truth behind our parents' death. Whether it's evidence or the murderer, we need all of them. Leon showed an unfriendly smile. And in the process, I will also show my power to the world. How to show it? Tony was stunned for a moment. Forcing them to use weapons of mass destruction, intercontinental missiles, hydrogen bombs. Anything will do. Then I went up to physically resist a missile, and then knocked down one of their military bases with one punch. Leon poured himself a glass of water. This not only shows my defensive power, but also my offensive power, and also shows my ruthless attitude when I strike. Presumably, after that, even if I come in and out of the house wearing a Superman uniform, no one will dare to come to my door. Tony imagined the scene of Lion being bombed by missiles and opened his mouth. Isn't this too risky? Don't worry. I'm not looking for death in a hurry. I must be sure before I act. Besides, can I hide if I can't withstand the missile? Leon said, taking out a box from behind. I still want to become stronger, but I'm not prepared to die. Tony, come and see. This is the uniform I made. How about it? He opened the box and took out a gold, blue, and red Superman uniform. This uniform does not have traditional underwear to be worn outside. It is entirely navy blue, with an S logo embedded in a golden inverted pentagon on the chest, and a red cape fixed on the shoulders. The Superman suit made of Kevlar fiber is bulletproof, soft, and most importantly, handsome. Even though Tony's heart was heavy, he couldn't help but comment, "It looks good. I'm glad you didn't wear your underwear outside." And the S, I remember it means hope, right? No, it means Stark now, the initials of Stark. Leon played the S. Starting tomorrow, I will wear this uniform and go to Afghanistan to eliminate the Ten Rings gang. From now on, I will be Superman. You seem to have forgotten that you have me, and I will go with you. Tony pulled Leon seriously. This is my own trouble, and I must solve it myself. But you still have to implement the plan we just made. Leon pointed at the projection. I think you should be very impatient to find out the truth. Tony shook his head, but that doesn't stop me from investigating the truth and going 10,000 kilometers away to deal with some hateful thugs. Tony has been paying attention to the Ten Rings gang these days. Those guys have great power from Afghanistan to the Middle East. Within their sphere of influence, ordinary people face the suffering of being oppressed and plundered every day. Even if Leon doesn't say anything today, Tony will soon choose to take action to dismantle this gang. Okay, but we must be cautious about shield matters and try not to be traced to us in the early stage. That means a lot of trouble. It's up to you. Tony looked at Nick Fury's face on the projection and asked, but I'm curious. You should be able to find the base of the Hydra organization. Why don't you just take action? Leon shook his head. Hydra's top management has a prominent status in various countries around the world. Those bases belong to them. If I take action directly, I may be manipulated by public opinion and be known as a dictator or a provocateur of war. Although I'm not afraid. After all, even if I face the kind of situation, I can only take action a few more times. But if you can avoid trouble in advance by using your brain, why do you have to wait until trouble comes to your door and then have to deal with it with your hands? Tony nodded in approval. I know you are a man who doesn't like to be passive, just like me. Leon ignored his rude words. This is the reason why I want to show my strength to the world. After all, I can't never use my superpowers, and my identity will always be discovered one day. And when my identity is exposed, the first thing that all forces will do is to test me. However, others are beginning to test and reveal their intentions of intrusion. Can I still bear it? But if I knock on the door directly, whether the other party is out to maintain the dignity of their power or to avenge one of their own, the result will be the same. In the end, it may turn out that I have to eliminate most of the armed forces in the world before I can return to a peaceful daily life. In this case, I might as well make a plan and bring out a public enemy of the world, directly in front of the global forces, and show all the power that is enough to scare them. Tony couldn't help but applaud. Good idea. You made the most right choice, Leon. Thank you for the compliment. I just don't like to be disturbed from my normal life. Leon put away his uniform. That's all I have to do, but I've given you the final answer. Now, Tony, you can finally rest assured. Tony smiled. I wasn't worried either. By the way, let me ask a question. Why do you want to play Superman and dress like a pajama baby? Forgive me for being blunt. Don't you want to be a superhero? No, I just like Superman, but I won't become a hero of justice like him. Leon hugged the box and left. Maybe I will be a hero who will draw a sword to help when there is injustice. But I will do good things and save the world. Let's forget it. Tony shook his head from behind. That's really a pity. I've already thought of the name of our hero group. Super Iron Man Brothers. What do you think? I feel very childish. Leon's voice disappeared down the corridor. It sounds like two kindergarten babies. Chapter 24, the bad guys will disappear tomorrow. A new day has arrived. After the rain, the sky cleared and the sun shone on the world, and Leon began to rush to the battlefield. This is the second time he has flown to Afghanistan, and it can be said that he is familiar with the route. It took a few minutes to catch up and passed a dozen Boeing planes. Leon floated in the air, looking down at the blue world under the clouds. His eyes moved from time to time, locking onto each target more accurately than radar. It was already night in Afghanistan at this time, and most of the bases of the Ten Rings gang were under martial law and preparing to rest. However, there are always some crazy terrorists who will take advantage of the darkness to harass civilians. It was this group of people that Lion first targeted. It's you first. He saw two armed terrorists kicking down the doors of civilians' houses. So he tilted his body and fell downward instantly. The biological force field shrouded Leon like a god of death and came silently. When he landed, he spread out the force field, and the ground beneath his feet cracked in all directions like a spider web, making a dull falling sound. The sound startled the two terrorists who had just kicked open the door. They turned around with guns in hand, and when they saw Leon in strange clothes, they immediately came up cursing. "Dari, are you Iranian or Tajikistan?" Lion asked Dari. He has learned most of the official languages on the planet in recent days and can understand the Dari swear words that the two of them are talking about. However, the two of them were indifferent and even wanted to put a gun to his head. Leon shook his head. "It seems you don't want to communicate. Goodbye then." He stretched out his hands, grabbed their necks like phantoms, raised them above their heads, and gently twisted them. There were two crisp clicks, and the two terrorists drooped their heads and stopped breathing. Leon threw the body away casually, and just as he was about to leave, he thought of something and looked back at the silent family hugging each other in the room. This is a typical Pashtun family. The elderly father has a beard, deeply sunken eyes, sallow skin, and cracked lips. The mother and two daughters wore robes and dresses. The combination of brown and orange is a kind of Pashtun national costume. They all looked at Leon in fear, their bodies trembling, and they dared not speak. They could only desperately hide the heads of their two daughters in their arms. "You don't have to worry about the consequences of these two people dying here," Lion said in Pashto, the official language of Afghanistan. "It's late at night. Go back to sleep. When you wake up tomorrow morning, the nearby terrorist organizations will disappear." After saying that, Leon turned around and floated in the air, scanning his eyes to lock the next target. "Please, please." Just as he was about to leave, a childish voice suddenly called from inside the room. Leon looked back. It was the youngest girl in the family. The girl, who was 7 or 8 years old, was covered by her frightened mother, but she still struggled to lift her mother's hand and asked timidly, Are you Superman?" Leon wears his own uniform and red cape, appears at critical moments, and can fly. He really looks like a Superman. But Leon was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that Hollywood's cultural output would be so powerful, and that families suffering in Afghanistan would actually know about Superman. But think about it, a few years ago, before the Americans came here, there must have been a rich entertainment life here. I'm not, but it's okay if you call me that. Leon first answered the little girl's question with a smile, and then comforted the two parents. "It's okay. I will leave soon, and so will the guys from the 10 Rings gang." "So, are you here to help us?" the little girl suddenly asked again. After receiving the answer, she became bolder. "Just like you beat up those bad guys on TV?" Leon was silent for a moment before nodding. "Yes, I'm just here to fight off the bad guys. They won't bully you in the future." "Great. Superman, you are awesome." The little girl cheered, broke away from her mother's hand, and ran towards Leon, trying to hug his thigh. Leon laughed dumbly, landed on the ground, squatted down, and held down the little carrot head. "What's your name?" "Shafika. My name is Shafika Mazari." "Okay, Shafika. Listen to me. You go back to your room now, lie down on the bed, and have a good dream, so that when you wake up tomorrow morning, all the bad guys will be gone, okay?" The little girl didn't agree. She looked at Leon with her big eyes. "Are you leaving Superman?" "Shafika." Leon also answered the question and tapped the little girl's forehead with his index finger. "Next time, you can't talk to strangers easily, and you must listen to your mother." After saying that, Leon stood up and took a step back, flying into the clouds with a sound that broke through the air. The little girl's family all ran to the yard and looked at the dark night sky, so shocked that they couldn't help themselves. "Allah bless you. That is really Superman." The old father made a blessing gesture. This night, the family suddenly had expectations for tomorrow's life. Lion quickly cleared Afghanistan of any terrorists who were harassing civilians. Each time he just showed up, punched, and left. A set of processes ends in 1 second. It takes no more than 10 minutes in total. After clearing out the soldiers, Lion began to deal with the terrorist organization base. If it is a normal strategic attack, it should attack small bases first, eat away at the terrorist forces step by step, and finally expel them. But Lion will definitely not do that. His first stop was the largest base of the 10 Rings gang. He was flying in the clouds, his cloak rustling in the high-altitude wind. At a glance, there are more than 70 people patrolling the base below. Under Leon's perspective, the more than 4,000 sleeping combat members remaining in the base were also clearly visible. In addition, he also saw the Jericho missile in a tent in the camp. It was a powerful weapon developed by Tony not long ago. One cannonball could flatten a hill. Why are there Jericho missiles here? Tony, you are really helping others. Although Tony felt very guilty now, Leon still couldn't help but talk. He even took out his cell phone. Jarvis, Leon called, take photos of everything I see later and send them to Tony after the battle. Especially the Stark weapons we saw during the process. Every detail was photographed for him to see. Leon is going to keep Tony awake all night with guilt today. Okay, Master Lion, the camera equipment has been started for you. Jarvis's voice came from the mobile phone. Leon nodded silently and fell down. The battle has begun. This time, he did not cover up his traces and fell into the Ten Rings gang camp like a meteorite, so fast that it caused flames to rub in the air. Boom! The deafening sound of falling echoed through the camp. The next moment the alarm bell was sounded, calls for enemy attacks came one after another, and the terrorists quickly gathered. Leon stood in the middle of the camp, and when someone appeared, he would use his heat ray to kill him. Soon the terrorists discovered that half of their own party was already dead before the fighting started. Some people were awakened just after falling asleep at night, and when they encountered this bad news, they already shouted about monsters and began to flee. However, they were quickly killed by the remaining people. But the rest were not much better. They didn't even dare to show their faces and hid behind the tent, pulling out grenades, grenade guns, rocket launchers, tank missiles, and Jericho missiles, planning to use a wave of fire to beat the invading monsters to dust. Chapter 25, He is simply a god. Leon saw every move of the terrorists clearly, but he did not counterattack immediately, but stood quietly and waited. Soon, a large number of explosive weapons, such as grenades and rockets, were launched. Leon remained motionless, but the heat rays swept away and the round ended. It wasn't until the vehicle-mounted missiles started igniting that he took off. Jarvis, are there any satellites above us now? Master Lion, there's a U.S. military satellite operating over Afghanistan. Jarvis responded immediately and began to analyze. As long as there is a small or medium-sized conflict, it will immediately monitor it. And 700 meters away, there's a local reporter secretly filming. Reporter? Are you a war reporter? Leon nodded and puffed out the golden S on his chest. It seems that the audience is all in place. How can no one care about Superman's first battle? He glanced around and immediately looked for the reporter. The base of the terrorist organization is sandwiched between several small hills, making it easy to defend but difficult to attack. The man was lying in the bushes on the hillside of one of the hills. It was packed tightly and dressed in the local ethnic style. Judging from his mixed black and white beard, he is obviously not young. He is a local middle-aged reporter. Such people have experienced the peace period in Afghanistan, the most dangerous war after the country was invaded and the most abject displacement. They tend to hate the Ten Commandments gang more and are not afraid of sacrifice. This is a group of people who only want to expose the atrocities of terrorist organizations with their own lives in exchange for peace in their home and country. Is that really Superman? At this time, the middle-aged reporter also saw a figure flying in the air in the distance. The man had a bright red cape behind him, a tall figure, and a face as handsome as Superman in the movie. People didn't want to forget him, but they couldn't remember it when they thought about it. No matter how you look at it, it's all superhuman and superhuman. Is it possible that there really is a Superman in this world? He is here to deal with the terrorist organizations below? The reporter found it extremely absurd. But the scene that his device had just recorded, of Superman fighting against thousands of armies alone, was so real. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. If Superman can save this country, then all my money for the rest of my life will be used to support DC and Warner Brothers. DC Comics was acquired by Warner Brothers in the 20th century. The middle-aged reporter gritted his teeth when he suddenly saw a fire light up in the camp, and then hot flames spurted out, and 6'2" to 3-meter-long vehicle-mounted missiles flew into the air. That's a missile. Not good. The reporter looked at Lion with eyes wide open. Superman, get out of the way, get out of the way. However, instead of retreating, Leon stepped forward. He accelerated in the air, holding a mobile phone in one hand and holding a fist in front of the other, and the arrows collided with the missiles. Boom! One missile detonated, and then several other missiles exploded one after another. Deafening explosions echoed across the hills. Smoke quickly filled the air, and firelight illuminated the branches of every tree. The violent wind from the explosion bent the surrounding trees one by one. The middle-aged reporter's turban was blown away, revealing a head of dry, yellow hair that had been blown upside down. He stared blankly at the smoke clouds in the sky, his blue eyes red with flames all over the sky, feeling uneasy in his heart. Under the frontal bombardment of 6 missiles, no one could survive, and even leaving a whole corpse was a luxury. But that's Superman. Even the bullets below couldn't hurt him. So he took the initiative to catch the missile. What if? As if responding to the expectations of the middle-aged reporter. Suddenly, a strong wind blew in the clouds and smoke. Who? The strong wind was fierce, but not fast. It blew away the mushroom cloud that was about to rise in a few seconds, revealing an intact figure. It's Superman. Superman's cape was still flying behind him, and he wasn't hurt at all. No, let alone injuring him. Those missiles couldn't even give him a hint of gunpowder blackness. By Allah, I knew it. I knew he could do it. The middle-aged reporter jumped up, his face flushed with excitement, and he pumped his fists excitedly while jumping, not caring that he had been exposed. He looked at Superman, as if he saw hope at this moment. How many days and nights have we been looking forward to it? Not expecting the intervention of international organizations, but looking forward to the arrival of a miracle. The terrorists in the camp were as excited as the middle-aged reporter. They also jumped up and down and shouted, but they shouted, "Monster! That's a monster!" After a while, gunfire rang out among the noisy terrorists, and another group of deserters, or those who did not want to be cannon fodder, were shot to death. Leon waited in the air for a while, showing an interested expression. Oh, we finally moved out the Jericho missiles. We planned to die together. The firepower of the Jericho missile covers a very wide range. After the explosion, the entire area within 2 kilometers will be enveloped in flames. This group of terrorists wanted to use Jericho at such a close distance because they planned to drag Leon to die with them. That's just right. I haven't seen the power of Tony's masterpiece with my own eyes, and now I can finally experience it for myself. Jarvis, don't forget to record it and send it to Tony. Leave a message asking him how he was able to sleep. Okay, Master Lion, I've been recording. Jarvis is always so considerate. After waiting for a few minutes, the Jericho missile was finally understood by the terrorists, pushed to the open ground, and successfully ignited. 3 Jericho missiles were launched at the same time, and the inventory in the base was emptied at once. The 3 missiles accelerated in the air and disintegrated immediately after approaching the target. Dozens or hundreds of small missiles blocked all lines' retreat routes. This is a coverage bombing with no blind spots, and Tony's invention is indeed top-notch. It is indeed Tony's latest work. Leon also praised it. Suddenly, he thought of something and glanced at the reporter on a mountainside. But I have to leave for a while. After speaking, Leon's figure instantly disappeared among the missiles. Time is running out. He appeared next to the reporter like a flash, lifted it from the bushes, then flew to another hilltop 3 kilometers away in the blink of an eye, dropped it, and returned to the center of the missile in an instant. Don't worry, I'm back. It shouldn't be too late, right? Leon said to himself as he looked at the approaching missiles. The Jericho missile is extremely fast, and its strategic positioning is for indiscriminate bombing in the shortest time. Almost as soon as Lion returned to his original position, the missile group's concentrated fire was already approaching. However, Leon did not want his carefully woven uniform to be blackened by missiles, so he punched quickly and continuously. Countless fish shadows appeared simultaneously in a 360-degree position, just like countless hands growing on Leon's body. Almost in an instant, all the missiles were detonated at the same time. Boom! A more violent explosion began than before. The sound of tearing through the sky, the flames rising into the sky, and the smoke covering thousands of meters. The strong shock wave spread at the moment of the explosion, and the trees and mountains within the range were first shattered and then engulfed by the explosion. 3 kilometers away, the reporter felt as if his eyes had suddenly changed, and he was knocked to the ground by the shockwave. He rolled around on the ground a few times, staggered, and stood up with a mess of clothes, staring blankly at the mushroom cloud in the distance that seemed to reach straight into the sky. Even though he was so far away, he could still feel the intense heat. What kind of missile is that? How could it be so terrifying? The reporter repeated blankly. He still remembered what he had just seen, the missile disintegrating into dozens of small missiles in the air. Such missiles are simply impossible to counterattack. If it were used to deal with the local defense army, the tragic outcome for our own side would be unimaginable. Also, Superman, where has he gone? He just saved me. The reporter leaned weakly against the tree and looked at the mushroom cloud. He knew I was hiding there, so he saved me. He is such a good man. Wait a minute, could he have gone back to deal with the missiles? The next second, a hurricane blew away the mushroom cloud, revealing Superman's figure, once again confirming the reporter's guess. My God, he is simply a god, the reporter exclaimed, looking at Superman, who was still unharmed. Chapter 26, This is Superman. The figure high in the sky stood silently for a long time. The sea of fire all over the mountains and plains below has been blown out by him. At this time, the sporadic firelight is as sparse as the starlight in the sky. However, Leon followed the principles of forest fire prevention and checked carefully again, extinguishing all remaining sparks one by one. Then he looked down at the base of the 10 Rings gang that had been razed to the ground at his feet and looked around leisurely. However, in the eyes of the middle-aged reporter, those actions are like a righteous Superman, making sure that he has not spared any criminals. The damn 10 Commandments gang does all kinds of evil. Now, it's better. Superman is here. We have hope. Superman is here. We want peace. At this moment, the middle-aged man felt that the figure in the sky was as majestic as a god. His body trembled unconsciously, and there was the pleasure of revenge in his eyes. But more importantly, there was expectation and hope. It must be like this. He is here to help us. He is here to save us. He is a messenger sent by Allah. No, he is Allah in this world, the reincarnation of Allah. He was so excited that he cried with joy. His legs became weak, and he knelt directly on the ground. He leaned over and cried bitterly. Everything is going to be okay. It's finally going to be over. Superman, by the way, Superman. I want to tell Superman that the 10 Rings gang still has many bases on this land. The middle-aged man thought of something. He climbed and rolled and pulled the tree trunk beside him to stand up, wanting to shout for Superman. However, when he looked up, the clothes as blue as the ocean and the cloak fluttering like blood were right in front of him. Superman. The middle-aged reporter was shocked. Superman stood in front of him at some point. Thank you for the compliment just now, but I'm not God. I am just a person who sees injustice on the road. Superman smiled and said, What's your name? You risked your life to shoot near a terrorist organization. You are brave and a hero worthy of admiration. No. I'm just an ordinary person. You are our hero. The middle-aged reporter was so excited by the praise that his face turned red. My name is Hafezullah Abdullah. Thank you for saving me just now. At such a close distance, he could finally see Superman's appearance clearly. Those deep black eyes are as charming as the graceful night. The face is carved with a knife and an axe, and every line is so tough and handsome. This is simply a perfect man. How could such a perfect person not be a god who came to the world to save all sentient beings? Abdullah can guarantee that if he were a girl, he would dream of this Superman every night in his life. No, even if he is not a girl, he will still dream about it. Don't be nervous, Abdullah. I'm looking for you because I hope you can do me a favor. Leon felt something strange in the reporter's eyes, which made his back tighten. He hurriedly expressed his intention. You should have just photographed what I did in the 10 Rings gang camp, right? Yes, that's right. Abdullah was a little flustered and immediately held the camera in both hands and handed it out. Please forgive me for taking unauthorized pictures. Please take back what's inside. That's not what I meant. Leon pushed the camera back. I want you to go back and release these videos in front of the media. Of course, in your own name. Just say that this is a picture you secretly captured at the risk of your own death, and tell other media from me. Let all foreign troops in this land leave immediately and give up the invasion. Abdullah's eyes widened. Are you going to declare war on the United States? It's not a declaration of war, but a post-war declaration. Leon turned around, leaving a profile. He finally nodded to the reporter, lifted his feet off the ground, and flew into the clouds. Goodbye. I will remember you, a brave hero. On the spot, Abdullah stared blankly at the figure disappearing into the night sky and unconsciously made a prayer gesture. Superman is above. He is simply the perfect Holy Spirit, the God of salvation. He has a pair of... Wait, I seem to have forgotten what he looks like. Jarvis, send all those battle scenes to Tony. On the other side, Lion had no idea how deep an impression he had left on the middle-aged reporter. He only thought about Tony. Also, if he hasn't gotten up yet, provide wake-up service. Okay, Master Lion, I will send the image data back to Los Angeles. Jarvis did as he was told. I believe Tony will like my gift. Leon determined the next target in the clouds. Before taking action, check the local time for me, Jarvis. Okay, it's 9:47 p.m. local time. Then work harder and try to finish all the 10 Rings gang bases before 11 o'clock, and then go to the Eagle base. Master Lion, are you going to take action against the American base? Do you need me to inform Mr. Stark in advance? No need to tell him. As a taxpayer, I refuse to let those rednecks above me do bad things with my money and correct the chaos. I think it is just and right. Besides, I'm going to build some reputation now, and when I stand up to destroy Hydra later, it will be more logical. You are so considerate. The other side of the ocean. Shield, Director, I think you need to take a look at this. The semi-bald, middle-aged agent placed a tablet in front of his boss, and the always kind expression on his face turned very serious. And that boss, a bald, one-eyed black man, sits behind a white lacquer desk. After hearing the sound, he slowly turned his seat and turned around. He was looking at the scenery outside the window before, leaving only a cold-back figure for his men who came in, looking mysterious and unpredictable. At this moment, the one-eyed black man known as the Director nodded lightly with a cold expression. Well, Coulson, what's the news? The largest 10 Rings gang base in Afghanistan has been eliminated, Director Fury. Oh, who did it? Nick Fury glanced down casually, and his unpredictable expression suddenly collapsed. FK. He suddenly stood up, eyes widened, and looked at the satellite picture played on the tablet computer. A man in cool and stylish clothes used a heat ray to easily eliminate the grenades in the sky. What the hell is this? Director, there's more behind. Coulson clicked on the screen to fast forward. Soon the progress bar was dragged to the second half. Nick Fury watched dully the scene of Leon resisting the Jericho missile and quelling the aftermath of the explosion without any damage. His mind was filled with exclamation marks and question marks. When was there such an awesome person on Earth again? Why didn't he know? Who is this? Have you found the results of your investigation? Nick Fury subconsciously wanted to take out the pager he used to contact Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is his friend, has the power to travel through the universe, and is now maintaining the peace of the universe in outer galaxies. When he encounters an unsolvable crisis, he only needs to press the pager in his hand to call Captain Marvel to come to the rescue. And the man in the video now gives him a sense of crisis that he desperately wants to press the pager. Coulson said with unprecedented seriousness at this time, "This is Superman, Director. Chapter 27, The Storm, is Rising Superman. Who is that?" Nick Fury's eyes narrowed, and then he was confused. Director, Superman is a superhero in DC Comics. He has super strength and super speed. Wait a minute, you said this is a character from a comic book? The kind of superhero who wears pajamas, covers his face, and saves the world. To be precise, Superman is not mass, Director. He has a biological force field that makes it impossible for people to remember or photograph his appearance. Coulson said. Nick Fury looked at the satellite image carefully. It is true that the facial details cannot be captured. You seem to be very familiar with him. I'm a fan of Superman. And of course, a fan of Captain America. Coulson said with excitement about his hobby. Then what do you think we should do with this Superman? Nick Fury crossed his arms and leaned on the back of his chair. It seems like he doesn't want anyone to discover his true identity. According to the plot in the comics, he stands on the side of justice and will stop unjust violence. So we may try to contact him, Coulson said. That's a caricature, Coulson. In reality, this one is just an imitator, and what he is doing is committing violence. This seems to be true. Superman in the comics doesn't know how to kill. He has a no-kill principle, compared with Team America. Stop talking about your comics, Coulson. Nick Fury knocked on the table. Take Patton with you, go to Afghanistan, and try to investigate the other party. Yes, Director. Coulson finished his report and walked out with a new mission. When he walked to the door, Nick Fury's arrangement came from behind him. Also, send me a set of comics related to Superman. At the same time, the same scene was also played out in the military. But Nick Fury knows more about supernatural powers than that. The military headquarters was in chaos. As a colonel in the Weapons Research and Development Department, Rhodes was the first to stand up and explain that the person in the video was a living person, not a humanoid individual weapon. The major of the missile force stood up and said that enemies that could not be damaged by Jericho missiles could only be as strong as nuclear bombs. The Navy captain said they couldn't deal with people who could fly. The Air Force Lieutenant Colonel said that it is difficult for airborne missiles to hit such a fast-moving and small target. In the end, General Ross made a decision. Ignore it for the time being and keep paying attention. If the other party does not show hostility, try to negotiate. It is best to let the other party cooperate in research and create super soldiers belonging to Ingjiang. Then, let's break up the meeting and prepare for war. This morning, the major secret departments were turbulent and noisy. The Stark mansion on the coast of Los Angeles is warm and lazy. Until Jarvis woke Tony up from his dream with the Swona sound recorded by Leon before. Jesus, Jarvis, what are you doing? Tony stood up from the ground holding the quilt. He was frightened by the sudden Swona and rolled out of bed. The exciting melody, like a galloping horse, made his heart beat fast when he heard it, and he thought someone was trying to trample on his soft bed. Sir, Master Lion just asked me to wake you up and play this video for you. After speaking, Jarvis controlled the holographic projection equipment and showed the picture captured by Leon's mobile phone in front of Tony. In the screen, thousands of guns fired volleys, hundreds of grenades covered bombs, vehicle-mounted missiles, and Jericho missiles appeared one after another. The screen was filled with fires, large fires, explosions, bigger explosions, and Tony was stunned for a moment. He didn't even have time to worry about Leon facing these dangerous weapons in the picture. The progress bar had already reached the end. What is this? A promotional video that Leon made overnight? Where is he now? Master Lion is destroying the Ten Rings gang in Afghanistan. Sir, the scene in the video was shot for you in real time by him 10 minutes ago. He's in West Asia? God, when did he leave the house? It's only now. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Tony looked at the bright sun outside and rubbed his face. He actually ran away alone. So why'd he take this video for me? Master Lion wants you to take a good look at the Stark weapons in the video, sir. Stark arms. The expression on Tony's face froze. He pulled the video to the beginning and watched it again, his expression getting worse and worse. They are basically Stark's weapons. Also, why are the Jericho missiles in the Ten Rings gang's base? Tony's face was expressionless, but his trembling cheeks revealed his restless mood. I only sold this kind of missile to the military. Where did these people get it? Was it the military? Or Obadiah? Sir, there is only one batch of Jericho missiles produced so far, which is the batch you sold. Jarvis said. Tony stopped talking with a dull face. After a few seconds, he put on his shirt and pushed out the door. Jarvis, you control Leon's suit of armor, and come with me to West Asia, and yes, the Middle East. Okay, sir. By the way, do you think you can sleep tonight? Why do you ask? Tony frowned. Master Lion asked me to ask you this question and provide him with the results in a timely manner. Tony opened his mouth, hesitated, and finally took a deep breath, exhaling breath from his nose. Tell him that when I can't sleep, I will make him unable to sleep either. After saying that, he unfolded his hands and immediately put on the Mark III armor. Follow me, Jarvis. He controlled the suit to take off, followed by Super Mark I, controlled by Jarvis. Super Mark I is the name given by Lion himself. This big boy is so damn eager to win that he even wants to take advantage of his name. Morning in Los Angeles is night in Afghanistan. This night is destined to be restless. The flames of guns and guns soared into the sky one after another on this land. If you look down from the sky, it looks like a candlestick that lights up one after another and then goes out in an instant. They light up from a northeast corner of the map, one after another, and finally dim in the southwest corner. Tell me the current time, Jarvis. Leon looked down at the last 10 Commandments gang base that was in ruins and filled with smoke. It's 11:08 p.m. local time. Well, it took some time. It took 8 minutes longer than planned. I don't know why, but every time I see people from the 10 Rings gang using missiles, he couldn't help but want to wait. Wait until the missile is launched and then blow up the missile in front of the terrorists. By then, even the most religious and stubborn members of the 10 Commandments gang will be driven to the point of despair. Killing people is also heartbreaking. Leon even felt that he was going a little too far. But I have to say, it's really fun to do this. Especially when looking down at the thugs who were scared to tears and saying, "Is this all you have?" It's really disappointingly weak. That would be even better. It's just a bit of a waste of time. After cleaning up the 10 Rings gang in this country, the next step is the Eagle's military base. Master Lion, what are you going to do? Just show your strength and destroy the weapons. After all, it is the people above who make the decision. Most ordinary soldiers just follow orders, and not necessarily all are willing to start a war. Your choices have always been wise, Master. Lion, Mr. Stark has entered the Afghan border and is contacting you. Do you want to get through? Chapter 28 Frozen Base. Refuse for now. Tell him I'm busy, and let him fly west to find the 10 Rings gang in other areas if he wants to take revenge. Leon flew to the nearest Eagle garrison base. There are 7 more bases like this in and around Afghanistan. In the next few years, it will expand to 19. With so many bases built around a small and backward country, it can be said that Jiang is a drunkard and his ambition is obvious. During this trip to Afghanistan, Leon originally only planned to eliminate the 10 Rings gang, and the follow-up plan was left to be slowly advanced in the future. But the little girl he met at the beginning of the night made him change his mind. After all, I have come here in the middle of the night, and if I don't do something by the way, I feel ashamed of the memory of my previous life. Although the Eagle in the Marvel world is not exactly the same as the one in the previous life, but Leon couldn't help but want to repair the talons of this bald eagle. When he landed over the base, air defense sirens quickly rang through every barracks. These well-trained soldiers are more alert and efficient than terrorists. Before Leon even made any offensive move, machine guns were aimed at him one by one. The communication equipment outside the base began to threaten. "Intruder, land now. Stop where you are. Otherwise, we will open fire immediately." The domineering tone, the quickly assembled troops, and the uniform muzzles. Leon couldn't help but sneer. He had not considered peaceful negotiation as an option. When dealing with a group of robbers, it is time to speak after you have subdued them and beaten them to pain. Leon's chest puffed up slightly, and after inhaling, he exhaled cold air. He chooses to use his freeze breath to finish off his enemies. Who? The wind suddenly rose. The bone-chilling wind suddenly swept through every corner of the military base. Following the cold wind were layers of rapidly spreading ice. Layers of ice climbed on the surface of the base building like vines, invading the interior and freezing all weapons and ammunition. Even the troops in the camp were not immune. Each soldier quickly turned into an iceman. It's just that the ice layer on their bodies is much thinner. When the entire base is wrapped in ice, it becomes as frosty and clear as an ice crystal castle in a fairy tale. Leon stopped. He nodded with satisfaction, then raised his fist and punched the wall of the base hard. It looked like a light punch, neither painful nor itchy, and couldn't make any waves. Ka-ka. However, circles of fine cracks immediately spread along the impact point and quickly spread throughout the building. when the cracks are dense enough to reach a critical point. The wall under Leon's fist collapsed and shattered instantly, breaking into debris wrapped in ice. The collapse of this part of the wall was like the first domino to fall. Soon the surrounding walls began to break, and the entire garrison base was caught in a chain reaction. The wall, which had become extremely fragile due to low-temperature freezing, was completely unable to resist the conduction of this force. I saw buildings collapsing one after another. What a spectacular scene! Taking Lion as the starting point, all base buildings, as well as the items in the buildings, collapsed into ruins one after another. But the sound of the building collapsing is not dull, but is particularly pleasant to the ears because of the knocking of ice cubes. For a time, the sounds of solid objects breaking and ice colliding came one after another, like thousands of jade stones shattering and phoenixes singing in unison. When everything was shattered, the huge base complex had become debris everywhere. Various fragments with rugged cracks reflected the moonlight at night in the ice. Leon landed on the ground and stepped on the ruins, making a crunching sound. Directly in front of him was the only thing left in this garrison base: Eagle soldiers. Thousands of soldiers lost consciousness in the ice. Although they will definitely leave roots of disease in the future, at least their lives are safe. Lion's control of power is extremely precise. He destroyed all the base buildings, weapons, and ammunition, but was able to spare the soldiers inside the base any harm. Even the hidden wounds left to these people were deliberate small punishments and big warnings. "You're asking for trouble," Leon whispered. His eyes quickly turned red and shot out heat rays. However, the maximum temperature can exceed the surface temperature of the sun, enough to burn all the heat rays in the world. At this time, the ice sculptures that swept across the soldiers were barely able to thaw them. What a delicate control this is. Who? Okay, so Cole. He is Superman. There is actually a Superman in this world. We were just provoking Superman. As soon as the soldiers thawed, they all collapsed to the ground, hugging their own bodies or the bodies of others, and rubbing them hard to generate heat. They looked at Leon standing on the ruins, and they didn't dare to express their anger. Even a few lieutenant colonels with three-stripe epaulets on their shoulders in the crowd did not dare to say another arrogant word at this time. Now, I'm officially informing you that you will withdraw from Asia within a week, otherwise I will come back again. Don't say I didn't predict it. The ice cubes under Leon's feet reflected a blue and illusory light in the moonlight. In the eyes of all the soldiers, Lion at this time was like a cold blade, hanging over their heads and ready to chop down at any time. There was silence among the crowd. No one answered. No one dared to speak. Leon didn't wait for an answer. After leaving a warning, he took off and left. These top soldiers, as well as a handful of mid-level officers among them, do not yet have the authority to respond to requests for troop withdrawal. He has to continue to show his strength in order to make the Eagle temporarily take advantage of it. And if he wants to completely resolve the subsequent disputes, he will have to wait until he takes down Hydra and resist a nuclear bomb. The next target is 26 kilometers to the east. Try to solve it within 1 minute. Leon suddenly accelerated in the air. At the first base, he seemed to have done a lot and spent a lot of time. But in fact, from the moment he flew above the base to the time he smashed the base and left, it actually took less than 3 minutes. Therefore, Leon planned to eliminate all the Eagle bases before the 7 or 8 satellites above his head could react. That's right, in the past hour, more and more satellites have been monitored above Lion. First, there are 2 high-precision satellites added by Eagle later. It was the rabbit next door who saw something was wrong with his neighbor and sent one to him. Then slowly, the 5 permanent members came, and a group of satellites were as lively as a meeting above his head. Leon didn't mind this at all. He even wished that every country would have a live broadcast, so that the people who had been suffering for a long time could see how he solved the Eagle's base. On the other side, Tony was still on his way to the scene. "Jarvis, what do you mean by saying that Leon didn't answer my call and went to find trouble at the army base by himself?" Tony communicated with Jarvis while flying. "That was what I was supposed to do." "Sir, you mean you also plan to attack Jiang's base?" Jarvis asked. "Attack? You didn't use the word accurately. It should be to help them relieve their anxiety about having too much ammunition. Understand, you plan to destroy Ingfang's firepower and expel them from this area like Master Lion. Is that kid going to do this? Tony pouted. He always steals my job. Because Ingfang sent Jericho to a terrorist organization without authorization, I want to come to ask for an explanation. What is he doing? Chapter 29, Tony's final stubbornness. Maybe for a girl, sir. Jarvis replied thoughtfully. It turns out it's for a girl. That's not surprising. That guy is as gentlemanly as I am. He treats all girls. Wait, what did you say, a girl? Tony exclaimed belatedly. Is it one of his ex-girlfriends who was kidnapped by Ingfang? Or is it that a girl he met locally was bullied by Ingfang? Tony became interested. It's a local little girl. She should be bullied by the Eagle forces, sir. Jarvis said matter-of-factly. Wow, this is really shocking news. Tell me the information about that girl. I will share it with Pepper when I get back. The parents' gossip began to sprout. This is to search for information for you. Shafika Mazari, 7 years old, born in Kabul, Afghanistan. Huh? Wait, isn't it? Taking away the boy. Tony's eyes widened. 7 years old. What's the problem, sir? Tony was silent for a moment. Didn't you tell Leon that he was committing a crime? Sir, although Master Lion killed 2 terrorists when he helped the Mazari family escape the harassment of the Ten Rings gang, that should be considered an act of righteousness and not a crime. Oh, are you saying that he and this little girl didn't have an affair? Well, he felt compassion for this girl, so he went to attack the Eagle base. Tony was slightly ashamed, feeling deeply guilty for the dirty thoughts he had just had in his heart. I've been wandering around in Vanity Fair too much, and everything I look at is colored. How can this be done? It seems that I have to stop drinking and gambling from now on. That's right. Do you have a different understanding? Jarvis was confused. Ahem. Actually, I think so too. Okay, Jarvis, help me navigate to where Lion is now. Tony changed the subject. Sorry, Master Lion's current speed exceeds Mach 20, so positioning is a bit difficult. Is he in such a hurry? Then you navigate to where he wants to go. Yes, sir. 5 minutes later, Tony Stark came to the sky above an Eagle garrison base. He looked down at the ruins covered by a sheet of ice crystals, as well as a large group of troops shivering in woolen blankets waiting for rescue, and felt a little silent. Jarvis, you said Leon is here? Sir, this is Master Lion's destination 5 minutes ago. He left 3 minutes ago. Tony complained. You should have told me earlier. Now, let's go to his next destination. No, to his last destination. Tony gritted his teeth. It seems that he plans to destroy all the bases directly. So let's hurry up and get rid of his target before he does. Without thinking, Tony could guess Leon's plan. That means destroying all Ingfang's garrison bases. In this way, even if he doesn't kill a single soldier. But because the base that Ingfang spent several years building was all in vain. After that, even if Ingfang didn't want to retreat, he had to retreat. Such a plan coincides with Tony's own ideas. However, his original plan was just to destroy the weapons and ammunition in the military base. Compared with Lion's approach of taking money from the bottom of the cauldron, it still seems a bit trivial. Sir, this is the navigation for you, but you seem a little unhappy. Jarvis asked. It could analyze the corresponding emotions from Tony's tone and expression, but it was confused. Master Lion wiped out all the Ten Rings gang bases for you to take revenge, and also destroyed the Ingfang base to indirectly vent your anger. Wouldn't it be good? Of course it's good. I'm so moved. Tony felt a tightness in his chest, but I just feel aggrieved. Jarvis, do you know what aggrieved is? Uh-huh. You analyze it. Being frustrated means that when something goes wrong and you have negative emotions, you are unable to talk or vent. Yes, that's it. Leon doesn't leave me any enemies, which makes me feel aggrieved. Tony's voice suddenly became louder. Do you feel that he's treating me like a child? I don't quite understand. Legally speaking, you are Master Lion's brother. That's the problem. It's me who should protect him and do these things. Tony twisted his neck. Speed up, Jarvis. We must solve the last military base before Lion. Yes, sir. Although Tony's thoughts are wonderful, his will to maintain his dignity as an older brother is also very firm, and his ability to act is also very strong. But it's a pity. When he arrived at the last Eagle base, what he saw was still a frozen ruin. Tony's head was full of battle plans and his fighting spirit was instantly cooled down, even colder than the soldiers below who were shaking like chaff. "Jarvis, where is he?" Tony asked numbly. "He's above you, sir." "Huh? Me above?" Tony suddenly became energetic and looked up to see Leon's cloak flying down. "Tony, you're finally here," Leon teased as soon as they met. "I thought you had to wait for me to get some sleep before coming." Tony was furious. "You want to sleep? You used Jarvis to wake me up and rush over, but you rushed forward like a train, leaving no enemy for me." Leon spread his hands. "I asked Jarvis to tell you that if you want revenge, go west. There are still many 10 Rings gangs waiting in the Middle East." "Can this be the same?" Tony held his breath. "What's the difference?" Leon didn't care much. They are all villains from the 10 Commandments gang. They didn't have ABC carved on their foreheads. They are all equally guilty. As he spoke, he glanced at the Super Mark I controlled by Jarvis next to him. "But I can also see that you're really serious this time. You even brought my armor. Are you planning to fight a protracted war? Are you talking about a protracted battle where all the enemies will either die or be shivering from the cold?" Flames spurted out from Tony's feet. "Listen, I'm going to the west now, and the 10 Rings gang there will be left to me. Although Afghanistan has been settled by Lion." But Tony still wanted to do something. The harm he unknowingly caused to the world in the past is irreparable. But he still wanted to do his best to make amends, even if this may seem like he is just touching himself or soothing his inner guilt. "Okay, I'll leave everything to you. I won't interfere for the time being." Leon looked at the time. "But pay attention to the time. Tony, I will prepare lunch at home and wait for you to return. Then maybe what you should prepare is dinner." Tony said that he could fight with the 10 Rings gang all day long. Leon shrugged and was about to say something else when he suddenly looked up at the sky. He looked through the clouds and saw a large group of satellites moving overhead hundreds of kilometers away. "It's so fast to catch up." He sighed. He shouted at Tony. "Tony, my current identity as Superman has been noticed by various countries. Please remember not to have contact with me in uniform during this period to avoid being suspected." Tony, who had already flown to the west, waved back to express receipt. Chapter 30 Prediction Experiment. When Lion got rid of a bunch of satellites and returned home, it was already close to 1 o'clock in the afternoon in Los Angeles time. He simply made a few omelets to go with pasta for lunch. As for Tony, as he said before, he fought with the 10 Rings gang until dinner time and still hadn't gone home. So Lion naturally tested the thrust once in the basement, then flew into space and began to bask in the sun. He and Tony worked together to develop an experimental plan to predict the upper limit of the growth of Kryptonian bloodline. The specific process is that he tests the thrust once a day before going to space to bask in the sun, and then again after that. And repeat this process for a month, keeping the sun exposure time the same each time. In this way, the two can build a rough model with the help of Jarvis. Use this to estimate the upper limit of Lion's physical enhancement. Of course, Leon readily agreed to such a simple test. Moreover, sunbathing time every day has always been his most anticipated and happiest moment. Facing the sun in space is like being immersed in a hot spring, and the sound of blood flowing is the sound of gurgling spring water. At that moment, he could always clearly feel his strength increasing rapidly. The rapidity and turbulence of its speed are like the fish rushing into the river after the river thaws in spring. Moreover, judging from the experience of the past few days, this speed of getting stronger is still getting faster. Leon understands that if the effect of a person's exercise is an arc that first rises and then falls, then he is in the ascending stage at this time. Looking at the overall growth stage of Kryptonians, it may also be defined as a weak period when they're becoming stronger at a rapid speed, reflected in numerical values. After a few more days of basking in the sun, Leon's whole body thrust had reached a massive 400,000 tons. This speed of getting stronger made Leon feel so happy every second he spent basking in the sun, as if he had been hit with a ton of dopamine. That feeling of pleasure is like taking a certain kind of shiver that makes people enter the sage mode, which is done one after another without stopping. Beep! Just when he was feeling so comfortable that he couldn't help himself, Jarvis's voice reminded him that the time was over. Leon reluctantly opened his eyes, flew out of the manned spacecraft, and prepared to go home for dinner. Today, the spacecraft that was originally used to protect him allows him to safely bask in the sun. It has become a park where he stays temporarily every day. Staying in space is especially used as a foothold when basking in the sun. After all, if he basked in the sun directly in a vacuum, he would be easily discovered by satellites from various countries. At that time, a large group of satellites will gather around him like a gorilla in a zoo, which is very annoying. Leon soon returned home. After completing a set of thrust tests, Jarvis suddenly prompted, "Master Lion, Mr. Stark was pursued by the Eagle Flight Formation on his return trip. Do you want to go to support him? Tony is being chased." "Where is he?" Leon was stunned. "In the middle of the West Coast Mountains." "Huh? Isn't that the place where I was chased by a reconnaissance plane last time?" "I see." Leon showed a gloating smile. "We finally reached the familiar part of the movie. Tony must have flown into California from the Eastern Pacific and was directly photographed by the military airspace satellite." "Master Lion, Mr. Stark's current situation is not optimistic. This is the picture sent back from the scene." Jarvis pops up a projection in front of Lion. The scene is from Tony's first point of view. "I saw service fighter jets flying down one after another in the thick clouds. They were so densely packed that there were as many as a dozen, which was enough to start a small battle." Leon could hear Tony whispering shit in the screen, and then his vision turned 180 degrees, preparing to escape. The next moment, countless projectiles flew past him. The screen also began to shake. It was obvious that Tony had eaten a bunch of bullets from the aircraft's machine gun. "This looks like he's going to be taught a hard lesson by the Air Force." Leon raised his eyebrows, but he didn't have too much worry in his heart. "I remember that the current Mark III's top speed has exceeded Mach 8. It would be easy for Tony to escape, right?" He touched his chin. Is it possible that he turned around confidently and planned to fight with the Air Force? "That's not the case, Master Lion." Jarvis explained, "With Mr. Stark's physical fitness, the time that can support the armor to explode at its fastest speed is actually very short. If it exceeds a certain time, his heart will explode due to excessive pressure. Normally, the average speed of the Mark III will remain around Mach 2, but this will also continue to consume Mr. Stark's physical strength." Leon couldn't help laughing. In other words, after fighting the Ten Rings gang, he was so exhausted that he couldn't speed up anymore, right? "You're right," Jarvis said. "Then why hasn't he asked me for help?" "Mr. Stark only asked me to send you this video. Understand, this guy just talks hard." Leon moved his shoulders. "However, although he even coyly asked for help, how could I not save him? After all, he is my beloved relative and friend." "You are right, Jarvis. Of course, legally speaking, you and Mr. Stark are the closest people to each other at the moment." Jarvis failed to understand the ridicule in Lion's words. Leon smiled. "Help me prepare the Mark II. I want to teach Tony a lesson." "Don't you wear a Superman suit?" "The steel suit seems to only limit your ability to display your strength. Wearing armor makes it easier to attend class." He had thought before that he would show up to put on a show when Tony was feeling down, and this opportunity just came. Lion's gaze crossed to the West Coast Mountains. Tony was currently shuttled between the locks of several airborne missiles, like a petrel flying through a storm. Most of the beautiful and luxurious golden red armor has now turned black. It was also covered with bullet holes and scratches, like a kebab that had just come off the grill. "Look at how badly our Uncle Tony was bullied." Leon walked towards the garage. There is no time to mourn for the deflated Tony. Next, it is time for the hero Leon to come on the scene and turn the tide. At the same time, Military Command Room. The same group of senior officials who met a few hours ago to discuss the Afghan Superman gathered together again. They were all looking at the satellite images on the projection screen. Above it is the golden red armor that was almost hit by a missile twisting left and right, and the blue-red armor on the side covering it. They are not Superman. Rhodes judged. These are just two humanoid exoskeleton mechas. Superman can definitely destroy our flying formation easily. Chapter 31, the correct use of iron lumps when the two armors entered the country. The soldier responsible for monitoring thought it was Superman coming, so he immediately pressed the emergency button and reported to his superiors. That's why the elite flight formation consisting of more than a dozen fighter planes has been dispatched. But where did this thing come from? Rod, did you just use just? An Air Force lieutenant colonel slapped the table. Two people in this thing held back our entire formation. You still think it's not strong and say it's just an exoskeleton mecha. Rhodes touched his face. I am comparing it with Superman. I work in the weapons research department, so of course I know what these two things mean. But they really should be described as just look at the technology on them. Unknown high power, stable energy, ultra high strength and precision metal materials, incredible anti-gravity systems, and energy transmission systems. These technologies are at least 10 years ahead of us. If these technologies were in our hands, the Pentagon could start planning to dominate the world tomorrow. What I can't understand is why the other party uses such technology to build mechas. It's like a person being protected by a group of tanks and fighting hand-to-hand on the battlefield. And have you noticed that the other party has not made any active attacks? Is it possible that they're actually from our side? Rhodes advised, so why don't we try to communicate with the other party first? The highest-ranking Air Force Lieutenant General, General Ross, made a direct decision. Whether they are from our side or not, shoot them down first. Wait, what is that? It looks like another exoskeleton armor. Suddenly, a colonel pointed at the projection screen and exclaimed. Everyone looked over. At some point, a silver-white battle armor appeared next to the golden-red battle armor. Damn, they are organized. Shoot them all down. The beard on Rose's mouth trembled. Leon saw two armors flying through the hail of bullets from a distance. He accelerated and flew to the side of the embarrassed Tony. Tony, I haven't seen you for a long time. Why do you look like you went to the oil field for a dip? Ah, Tony exclaimed from the golden-red armor. He turned around and almost attacked after seeing Leon. Leon, maybe next time you appear, you can look a little more like a human instead of a ghost. Tony was really shocked. He almost lost his balance in the air. Also, why are you wearing my armor? Leon tilted his head. Of course it's because you took my armor away. He looked back behind him and saw more than a dozen fighter planes chasing him to death. The bullets never stopped pouring, and more than a dozen bullets in the air blocked most of the escape routes. I mean, why don't you wear those tight underwear of yours? Tony dodged a string of bullets with difficulty. You have forgotten who I am when I wear the Superman uniform, and I can't meet you for the time being. Compared with Tony, Leon's evasive movements seem to be very easy. But mainly because I plan to show you the correct use of this iron knot. What? You mean you brought me the instruction manual for the Mark armor? That's really great. I just need this. Tony curled his lips. The next step is not in the instruction manual. Watch out. I won't use my own strength during the whole process. Leon firmly remembered the positions of all the fighter jets behind him and suddenly shouted, Jarvis, deploy the ailerons. There was a scoff. The silver-white Mark II armor unfolded its ailerons and suddenly slowed down. Jarvis was always so considerate at critical moments, and he would do whatever you asked him to do immediately, without any hesitation. Even this order from Leon caused the Mark armor to fall directly into the fighter group. Hey, what are you doing? Tony was stunned and turned to watch Leon flying behind him. The fighter pilots behind were also dumbfounded. Turning around, he saw the silver-white armor flying beside his cabin, waving enthusiastically to him. Call the command center. Target number 3 suddenly slowed down and rushed into our queue, requesting to change the attack target. The captain of the fleet immediately grabbed the radio and shouted wildly, Allow the attack. Be sure to shoot it down. The command was issued at the same time. Attack! 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 The fighter group immediately dispersed its formation. One part accelerated forward, and the other part decelerated behind, surrounding the Mark II as if it had been rehearsed hundreds of times. Although there was panic at the beginning, the fighter pilots almost grinned after forming their formation. In their eyes, the enemy's initiative to enter their own encirclement is no different from delivering food. Unit number 1 has locked the target. Unit 2 is locked. Continuous reports sounded on the channel, and the captain immediately ordered an attack. Attack! Launch airborne missiles. Fire! Fire all the bombs. Each fighter plane is launching missiles and uses onboard machine guns to block the evasion space. Lion was bombarded from all directions. The speed of more than a dozen missiles increases very quickly after being launched, and they can hit the Mark II within a few seconds. Naturally, Lion will not sit still and wait for death. He completely turned off the propulsion device and fell downwards in a horizontal parabolic arc. Such a move was completely unexpected by the other party. The missiles coming from all directions suddenly fell in front of the Mark II. Although under the control of the tracking system, they quickly changed direction. But this encounter caused the missile group's speed to drop sharply, to less than 1/3 of its previous speed. Pursue downward. The fighter group also began to turn around. Jarvis, turn on the smart locking system. Leon neither uses supervision nor super strength, and relies entirely on the function of the Mark II suit itself to fight back. Jarvis moved very quickly marking the trajectories and current speeds of each missile on the projection in his helmet. Very good. Leon began to accelerate backwards, and the missile swarm chased in front of him. The direction of their actions at this time was completely opposite to Tony's previous direction. Leon, Tony's voice cut into the helmet at this time. What do you want to do? Calm down and try not to attack. We are the invaders now. Don't escalate the situation. Their mechas have not been registered with Eagle. Moreover, the mechas also carry thermal weapons. Strictly speaking, they are intruders with bad intentions. It makes sense that those fighter jets shot them down. I'll do it, don't worry. Just see how I deal with them. Leon replied briefly. He operated the Mark armor and began to accelerate, but controlled the speed to always be slower than the missile group behind him. When the missile was extremely close, he suddenly shifted his position. In just a short moment, the acceleration of the armor first decreased and then increased. After the speed changed, he made a dang sound and stuck to the side of a missile. Jarvis, use current to absorb the missile shell, and be careful to shield the electromagnetic signal to avoid triggering the fuse sensor. After Leon gave an order, he controlled the propulsion flames ejected from the soles of Mark II and suddenly increased the power. He starts to speed up with the missile. Chapter 32, you are more powerful this time. The silver armor and military green missiles seem to blend into one. The two accelerated together, temporarily distanced themselves from other missiles, and drew a huge arc in the air. At this time, other missiles have begun to lose their tracking accuracy, scattering in the air, no longer pursuing Lion like a swarm. This is also a sign that the missile is about to explode. Leon estimated the time in his mind, loosened his armor hands at the stuck point, and moved away from the side of the missile controlled by him. 3, 2, 1, boom. He accelerated quickly. The countdown in his mouth ended, and a loud explosion sounded behind him. Boom! Several missiles hit the side of the missile controlled by Lion and exploded in advance. The airflow in the air was violently pushed away, and other scattered missiles were affected and detonated immediately. The flames of the explosion suddenly spread over the West Coast mountains, and within a range of nearly a kilometer, there was thick billowing smoke. The pilots in the fighter group were stunned. They could not understand why the Mark II could evade the pursuit of missiles so easily, but they soon ran out of time to daze. Even a long wind in the sky cannot dispel the smoke of dozens of missiles exploding simultaneously in a short period of time. All the fighter jets had no time to react, and they all plunged into the dark smoke. Target lost, duplicate. Target lost, the captain reported. Accelerate and rush out of the blocked line of sight area. Continue the pursuit, and never let the opponent run away, the command headquarters ordered. However, Leon did not take the opportunity to escape, but turned around and flew towards the aftermath of the explosion. Give me a flight trajectory simulation based on the enemy plane's flight direction and speed, Jarvis. The projection on the armor's face flashed, and dozens of trajectories were immediately simulated in the image of thick smoke. At the same time, Leon made a lot of calculations in his mind, estimated the approximate time, and accelerated into the smoke. He quickly approached one of the tracks. Prepare to turn, Jarvis. As soon as he finished speaking, a fighter plane suddenly appeared in front of the Mark II through the black fog. Seeing that they were about to collide, the armor suddenly stopped and turned, flying upward. The pilot in the fighter plane was so frightened that his eyes widened, but he immediately reacted and controlled the plane lift. At the same time, he pressed one of the hundreds of control buttons in the cabin, opened the weapon bay, and ran the machine gun to pour bullets. Unit number 13 has found the target. Report. Unit number 13 has found the target. Attack. Attack, the captain ordered. Unit 13 chased closely behind Lion and hit Mark II with several bullets, causing Lion to shake. This made the pilot of Unit 13 even more excited. He pushed the thrusters to the bottom and pursued Lion at high speed. But suddenly the Mark II turned again. The pilot was stunned and was about to follow when another fighter plane suddenly rushed out of the black fog in front of him. Fake. The pilot quickly raised the aircraft, but it was still too late. The bottom and top of the two aircraft collided, and the friction force at high speed directly destroyed most of the aircraft. The fighter jet immediately emitted flames and black smoke, and its engine system and exhaust system were damaged, making it unable to continue flying. The pilot of plane 13 reluctantly pushed down the rudder, let the plane fall, opened a parachute device, and ejected from the cabin. Plane 13 has collided. Eject now. But the other fighter plane that suffered a disaster was even worse. The glass cockpit of the fighter jet was directly destroyed, and the pilot was instantly unconscious. It was Leon who noticed something was wrong, turned around, and helped pull him out of the cabin so that the pilot did not fall with the fighter plane. On the other side, pilot number 13 also discovered something was wrong. He opened his parachute in the air and saw two planes falling at the same time below, but there was no second voice reporting battle damage in the audio, so he hurriedly called for help. Unit number 7 collided with me and fell at the same time. He has no signal. He may be pursued by the enemy. Apply for rescue. Mayday! Mayday! How passionately he shouted for attack before. Now he shouts for Mayday just as loudly. Soon Lion heard the sound of swooping downwards one by one in the clouds. Apparently, the remaining fighter planes were heading to the rescue. He had a strange look on his face. It seems this exhibition match is over. Looking down at the pilot in his hand, he landed thoughtfully, put the pilot on the ground, and then flew towards Los Angeles. Good luck to you then, buddy. The fighter jet group was busy rescuing people. Although the headquarters saw the Mark II leaving through satellite, it also knew that it was too late to pursue it now, so it could only beat the table. Damn it, let them escape, Ross furiously said, helplessly. Send me more Air Force squads. It's too late, General. Rhodes analyzed bluntly from the side. Judging from the acceleration shown by the opponents several times, it is impossible to catch up now. Fake. On the other side, Leon and Tony meet up. The two flew back to the beach house together. With the size and speed of the Mark armor, as long as it is not photographed by satellites, it will not be tracked home. Jarvis helped guard the satellite, so the two flew leisurely. I didn't use weapons, right? Just like you requested, there was no direct conflict and no casualties. Leon said, however, after seeing what I did just now, do you feel like you were taught a lesson? He asked emphatically how Tony felt. After all, this trip was just to show off in front of Tony. I have been thinking about this for a long time, but he also thinks about Tony. After all, Tony has a close relationship with many people in the military, and there is a high probability that he will reveal his identity as Iron Man in the future. So in order to avoid a dispute between Tony and the military, he followed Tony's instructions throughout the process and did not take the initiative to attack. In the end, he even saved a pilot. Good. Tony was speechless for a moment because he really felt amazing. Jarvis had just transmitted the footage of the Mark II to him in real time. Lion's precise control of speed, time, and direction is something he can't do now. Tony has not even thought that the battle armor can be as flexible as Leon just now. After all, he has just gotten started and has not flown a few times. He just feels that the Mark armor should be controlled like Leon. It is so handsome. Of course, Tony couldn't admit defeat. You just use your own power, right? That must be it. Tony deceived himself. Absolutely not. Jarvis knows everything about Mark II. He can guarantee me. Lion presented the evidence. Jarvis immediately cooperated. Yes, sir. Master Lion just controlled the actions of the armor throughout the entire process, and all the data were normal. Of course, Tony knew this fact. He was just being tough. But you shot down 2 fighter jets, and it still doesn't work if you don't settle the opponent peacefully. Lion was happy to tease Tony. I neither used weapons nor took the initiative to attack. Can you blame me for the opponent's mistakes? Tony, you are not so strict with yourself. Okay, my dear Leon, for the sake of the dinner you prepared for me, I admit that you are the stronger one this time. Tony raised his hands in surrender. Thank you for the compliment. As long as you keep working hard, Tony, you will be as good as me one day. Leon immediately showed a happy expression after hearing this. But what dinner are you talking about? Tony looked stunned. Don't tell me you didn't prepare dinner. I'm so hungry right now that I could eat the entire cheeseburger in Los Angeles. Actually, I didn't do it. I just finished the strength test and went to save our soldier Tony, but I didn't have time to prepare dinner. Leon gave an answer that disappointed Tony. Then order takeout. Tony suggested. I agree. While waiting for the takeout, maybe you can take the opportunity to send a message to Rhodes and tell him that you are the Iron Man who caused the military to jump up and down today. Why should I tell him? Tony was puzzled. This will expose my identity. Your flamboyant style will be exposed sooner or later. It's better to ventilate it with Rhodes in advance so that he can be mentally prepared to help cover you. Oh, what you said seems to make sense. Leon, when did you know this? Did you learn it from fighting with little girls in school? I learned it when I was a kid and stopped you from bringing a strange woman home. Then you really have to thank me. The 2 voices of conversation gradually disappeared in the wind. Under the orange-red sunset, the sea surface undulated like maple trees in late autumn. In the reflection, 3 mechas flew into the Stark mansion together. Chapter 33 news about Superman a few days passed quickly. Everything remains calm for the Stark family. Lion clocks in every day to bask in the sun, waiting for the start of university in the new year. Tony didn't go to work as usual. He got up every day, stuffed bread and butter in his mouth, and ran to the Middle East. According to him, the inherently evil 10 Rings gang will soon disappear from the world. And since he had an affair with Rhodes, he has never been caught by the military again. As for Pepper discovered that Tony came home with an armor full of bullet holes the night before yesterday, and he was very angry. However, as usual, she still had nothing to do with Tony. After getting angry, she still worked diligently every day to shoulder the huge responsibility of the development of Stark Group. This is the daily life of the Stark family. Just like the sea outside the mansion, there are occasional waves, but most of the time it is calm and carefree. But for the world, the impact of Superman's appearance has begun to ferment, and undercurrents are surging from all sides. KNKV TV station reports. In the morning, Leon came back from his morning exercise in space. After making breakfast, he saw Superman news on TV, reported by the local TV media KNKV. There seems to be no doubt that Superman appears in our world. The female host held the manuscript with a serious expression. In the past few days, although he has not appeared again, there are still countless people proving his existence and praying for his reappearance. What he did that night completely changed our world. The voice fell, and the news screen switched, turning into a noisy press conference. There was only a middle-aged Afghan man with half-white hair on the podium. The large and small flashlights in the audience kept lighting up, but his eyes were always looking at the camera. It was Superman who saved our country and our people. He tried his best to amplify his voice, as if trying to make his words more deafening. I was lucky enough to take a picture of him that night. He was fighting for us. He is a Superman, the one upon whom all things depend. He has no place to come and no place to go, and nothing can be his enemy. He is our God and our Savior. The Father is in him, and he and the Father are one. At the same time, someone moved a thick screen behind the middle-aged man. After it was lit, the scene of Superman facing the missile began to play. Look at him, how majestic he is. He has driven away all the wolves. We are all his lambs, the man shouted to the camera. The scene finally ends here, and the perspective jumps back to KNKV's live newsroom. The female host sat upright and said, "The man in the picture is Afghan war correspondent Abdullah. He once filmed the scene of Superman's first appearance. He raised his arms and shouted at the press conference that Superman was the reincarnation of the Holy Spirit of God. During this period, countless people came to the camera to tell their own stories about Superman coming into reality. The screen jumps again. A little girl was interviewed by a reporter and spoke categorically. Two bad guys wanted a break-in that night, but Superman suddenly appeared and stopped them. The girl's father also said, Superman said that the Ten Rings gang would leave us soon, and he did it. Not only that, but now Evening Fong. The following words were not released, and the news screen jumped to another person. He fell from the sky, like a shooting star. I didn't make a wish, but he destroyed the terrorist who wanted to force my sister. One boy danced and described. There are many more scenes like this. There's a short clip of Afghan guardsmen saluting a photo of Superman. There is a scene of everyone in a rundown village crying and shouting Superman in front of the rice fields. Besides, the relevant material was played for 5 minutes before the live broadcast screen was switched back to the studio. As more and more people confirm the existence of Superman, we have to start thinking about what impact he will have on our society. Is he like Superman in the comics, just and selfless like a god on Earth? Or is he just a parody in uniform, using the name of Superman to satisfy his own vanity? According to our reporter's understanding, yesterday a large number of our returning soldiers had to give up aid to local residents under the pressure of Superman. We don't know whether he is a dictator or a hypocrite wearing a mask, and we cannot make a correct judgment immediately. Next, let's listen to the analysis of sociologist Francis Wyndham. Leon held his chin up and watched with interest as the scholar who just appeared analyzed Superman eloquently. From comic analysis to reality, from clothing to childhood, the story is told as if it were true, and the final conclusion is that Superman is a paranoid man who loves to drink milk. The analysis process was based on references from classics, so much so that Leon himself almost believed it. Are you reading these boring reports again? Haven't you seen enough after so many days? Tony walked down the stairs. It's either full praise or complete extreme disparagement. What's so interesting about these views, especially these TV stations, which have received political funds, want to portray you as a complete villain? It's just something like this. Why do you always look at it with gusto? He threw a roll of newspapers on the table and sat down next to Leon. And look at what these people wrote. They're all about Superman. Haven't they read the comics? I am so excited when Superman appears. Leon glanced down. The newspaper read, a mysterious mecha appears in the Middle East, a parody of Superman. It turns out the problem lies here. Tony worked tirelessly for several days and basically wiped out the Ten Commandments gang in most of the Middle East. However, almost all media outlets did not report on him. Even if it was reported, he was mentioned first, and then the topic was immediately changed to Superman. No wonder Tony is so resentful. He is not a person who likes to walk in fine clothes at night. Perhaps you can buy a newspaper and ask them to write a report specifically for you. The title is Iron Man Reappears, the hero who protects civilians in the Middle East. How about that? Tony raised his eyebrows. That's a good suggestion, but you know I'm not the kind of person who loves vanity. I'm here to help you fight against injustice, Leon. Come on. If you really want to help me fight the injustice, why not give those media some money and let them learn to tell the truth? Lyons said. Tony got up and went to the table to get a piece of bread. I can do that if you wish. As he ate, he said, but do you really think you need it? No need. Leon still held his chin up. When Hydra is eliminated and my strength is revealed, the media will naturally speak for me. That's the truth. Tony tapped the screen with his index finger in agreement. The media's tongue only praises those who can shut them up. Chapter 34 of Abdullah's video. But I still don't understand how you went to Afghanistan for one night and gained so many staunch fans. Tony waved the slices of bread in his hand. You want to say believers? Pretty much, especially the reporter who seems to have suffered a lot. He has to say in front of the media every day that you are the true God and the Holy Spirit. He is a completely fanatical believer. You mean Abdullah? I don't know what happened to him. Maybe this is the simple folk customs over there. I thought you brainwashed him. You know, like Clark and Superman, who can manipulate other people's memories. Tony gestured with his hands in the air. I would like to have this kind of ability. It sounds exciting. Leon complained. What's an exciting way to do it? Tell me about it. You'd better just want to hear it instead of picturing it in your head. Ahem. What did I just say that? Oh yes, that Abdullah. He said in the interview that you saved his life. That's what happened. He was within the explosion range of the Jericho missile. I rescued him and asked him to help spread the video and deliver messages on my behalf. So he's that person. Tony suddenly realized he appeared in the video you asked Jarvis to send me. No wonder he looks so familiar. Leon raised his head. You seem to be paying attention to him. Uh-huh. Tony chewed the bread in his mouth. He said that in order to thank you, he planned to use all the money to buy Warner stock. So I asked Pepper to acquire Warner. You know how to make a lot of money. Leon's mouth twitched. Don't say that. Now the whole world is paying attention to Superman. After the acquisition of Warner, the shares of Stark Group have risen. Tony finished eating the bread and started to lick his fingers. I'm more curious about how you negotiated this acquisition. People all over the world are paying attention to DC now, and they have no reason to sell the company. Tony took out a piece of paper and wiped his fingers. Some other chaebols and countries, are putting pressure on their companies. So I took the opportunity to enter. How to enter? You don't even sell arms. Are you still qualified to enter? But I'm selling this now. Tony knocked on the arc reactor on his chest. New energy. Everyone wants it. Leon's eyes widened slightly. Did you expose your identity? Tony looked left and right, turned around twice, and raised his palms. It's almost like Rhodes let it slip. Oh, that guy's mouth really seems to be a public service area, and he can't keep any secrets. Leon didn't believe it at all. Come on, Rhodes is just a bit humorous. How can he serve in a secret department if he is not strict with his words? He guessed. I think you were jealous of Superman's traffic, so you take the initiative to expose yourself to the outside world and plan to attract all eyes to yourself. Tony stopped talking. He looked at the ceiling, pretended to be busy, patted himself, and then turned around and left the next moment. I was helping you relieve your stress. So many people are paying attention to you and misunderstanding you. I'm not allowed to stand up and lead by example. He waved his hand back. Okay, I'm leaving. Today is my last day to go to the Middle East. The Ten Rings gang will no longer exist. That's right. Tony walked out the door and suddenly turned back. I have a press conference tomorrow. Please remember to attend. Looking at Tony's back, Leon's superbrain was sunk. Half a minute later, the sound of steel armor igniting and taking off was heard outside the house. Tony, this guy, the press conference to be held tomorrow, is probably going to be used to reveal his identity as Iron Man. Leon looked out the window at the Mark III disappearing into the horizon and was speechless for a long time. He thought about it many times. The appearance of Iron Man, as the beginning of a major event in Marvel movies, is likely to be an absolute point in time. In other words, there's a high probability that Tony will say, I am Iron Man no matter what. For this reason, Leon also guessed many reasons that might lead Tony to admit Iron Man's identity. But the reason why he blew himself up because he wanted to earn traffic was something he could never have imagined. What the hell? This world is so FG crazy. Leon couldn't help but curse. Forget it. Tony won't die anyway. Don't care about him. Sunbathing is important. Leon patted his butt and stood up, tore open his shirt, instantly transformed into Superman, and flew into space. Shield. Nick Fury has thick dark circles under his eyes, even though his whole body is dark. But at this time, the bags under his eyes looked particularly black and large, like a piece of black coal briquettes hanging on an ink bottle. Is this your investigation report? He put down the document in his hand and raised his head to ask Coulson in front of him. The information inside is not as much as what was exposed on the TV station. At least they interviewed all the local people. Coulson lowered his head. Sorry, Director, Superman hasn't appeared since that day, and we can't find any clues. However, the videos played on TV actually contain a lot of information. As he spoke, Coulson took out a tablet and handed it to Nick Fury. Nick Fury's eyelids jumped when he saw the familiar movements of his men. Then he saw Coulson light up the screen and start playing a video he had watched hundreds of times in the past few days. The video content is divided into 3 parts. The first part was shot by the Afghan reporter Abdullah, showing Superman resisting vehicle-borne missiles and Jericho missiles. The second part is what Abdullah told Eagle on behalf of Superman. All foreign troops leave the border immediately and give up the invasion. The third part is this reporter's personal belongings. He spent a whole hour promoting the greatness of Superman, spreading Superman's beliefs, and trying his best to link Superman with Allah. Although it was the hundreds of times he watched this video, Nick Fury still patiently watched it. Because the first part in the video is Superman's strongest performance in a battle so far. And just this time, no official satellite could record it completely. The only relatively comprehensive information is the video released by this reporter, which is of great significance to the study of Superman's strength. After the video ended, Nick Fury looked at Coulson. What conclusion did you draw from this? Director, it is obvious that Superman's strength, at least his defense and speed, surpasses all living things and even weapons on the Earth. Coulson weighed his words. Whether he is Superman in the comics or not, based on the power he has shown, our best option is to make friends and stabilize his emotions. Well, Nick Fury nodded. He rubbed the pager in his hand. Then tell me, does his personality belong to the extreme and unruly type? Do we need to suppress him? Suppress. Coulson was stunned. With all due respect, Director, we don't seem to have such means. Nick Fury glanced at his pager. I mean, assuming there is, do you think it is necessary? Chapter 35, the female agent under the bed. Coulson didn't answer immediately this time. He thought seriously for a few seconds. I don't think there's a need to suppress Superman. What's the reason? Nick Fury looked at Leon, who was unharmed in the sea of fire in the video, with an expressionless face. Although Superman only appeared once, he also destroyed the Eagle military base extremely forcefully and ordered the troops to withdraw. Coulson explained according to his own understanding, but he did not hurt innocent people in the process. His purpose is very clear, and he will even take the initiative to help vulnerable groups who are being bullied. Every local, ordinary person who has come into contact with him has a very good impression of him and is filled with gratitude. So, comprehensively speaking, he is more like a benefactor or a judge who has relatively positive values and strictly acts accordingly. Facing such people, if we suppress them, it will easily arouse strong resistance from the other party, create huge conflicts, and make the situation go beyond control. Nick Fury nodded in approval. This was also the question he had been thinking about these past few days. Facing Superman with a moral bottom line, showing kindness is the best choice. But what Nick Fury resents most is this feeling of being outside of control. So even though you have already figured out the best way to treat Superman, but he still couldn't help but want to defeat or conquer the other party and bring the other party completely under his control. What if we are powerful enough to defeat him easily? Do you have any other suggestions? Nick Fury feels that if Captain Marvel takes action, he will definitely defeat this so-called Superman. Coulson fell into deep thought this time. He thought about it carefully and still shook his head. I still don't think we should do anything. Why? Nick Fury frowned, and the flesh on his dark face was squeezed together. We haven't figured out Superman's true abilities yet, Director. If he is really like Superman in the comics, he could become stronger by just basking in the sun. Coulson took a breath. Then once we take action, unless we kill the opponent, we will face an enemy that continues to get stronger and whose future is unpredictable. You think so? Nick Fury stared closely at Superman on the screen, as if he wanted to get into it and see what kind of person he was. The room was silent for a few seconds. I have to admit, you are right, Coulson. Okay, your mission this time is over. Next, you coordinate the manpower, continue to pay attention to Superman's traces, and try to contact him after he appears. Nick Fury finally spoke. He put the pager back in the drawer and told Coulson, and remember to control public opinion on the internet. It can't be one-sided, and you can't let too much negative information arouse Superman's malice. Yes, Director. Coulson consciously took the documents and tablet and left without any dissatisfaction with being assigned consecutive tasks. Perhaps this is the legendary innate working body. It wasn't until Coulson closed the door and left that Nick Fury leaned on his seat, turned and looked out the window. He pulled out a Superman comic from the side, flipped through it a few times, and then threw it back. The world is not peaceful anymore. That plan needs to be accelerated. As for agents, there is only one cavalry person for the 7th level female agent, which is still not enough. Beat. Jarvis's warm reminder is that it's time to end a hearty sunbath. Leon half-heartedly pressed the button in the spacecraft, opened the hatch, and then returned to Earth without any interest. Recently, the speed of strength growth has been faster and faster. When basking in the sun, every cell in his body felt like it was flying on a rocket. The sour feeling made Leon unable to stop. Unfortunately, experiments to test the upper limit of the body require control variables. Therefore, in the past month, he had to spend a fixed amount of time receiving direct sunlight in space every day. Otherwise, he feels that he can even live directly in the universe without going back. Wherever there is sunshine, he is home. It takes more than 10 seconds to return to the mansion on the coast of Los Angeles. Leon pushed the door open and glanced at the time displayed on the electronic screen on the wall. It's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Tony won't be back until 7 or 8 o'clock. After finishing the strength test, I'd better eat dinner by myself first. He muttered to himself as he arranged his next plan. Then he walked back to his room and prepared to change into casual clothes for home. But after taking 2 steps, he stopped, with his right foot still hanging in the air. Tony, you came back so early today. Leon's ears moved, and he seemed to have heard a second heartbeat in the room just now. You must know that he keeps suppressing his super hearing at all times, and normally he can only hear the sound he wants to hear. At this time, a heartbeat suddenly broke into his ears, which meant that the other party was very close to him. It was so close that even with suppressed super hearing, one could clearly distinguish the slow and regular rise and fall of a strong heart. After waiting for a few seconds, as expected, there was no response from Tony's voice. Although Tony usually didn't pay much attention to others when doing experiments, there was something different this time. Because this heartbeat was in Tony's room, but it didn't sound as strong as Tony's. Leon narrowed his eyes slightly, and instead of asking Jarvis, he directly turned on the clairvoyance. The world quickly becomes transparent, and layers of barriers gradually disappear. Leon's perspective seemed to turn into a ghost, lurking into Tony's room, passing through the huge and soft warm bed, and saw Natasha. Leon looked strange. Why is she here? She's still lurking under Tony's bed. Under Tony's 3-meter-wide bed, which was less than 30 centimeters high, there was actually a woman with a good figure hiding. Her burgundy short, shoulder-length hair hung wetly on the ground. Her eyes were closed, her hands hung by her sides, and she breathed long, like a sleeping beauty. But combined with the scene where she was lying on her back under the bed, it looked like a vegetative person had grown under Tony's bed. Leon was a little uneasy. As soon as I got home, I saw the famous Black Widow hiding under my brother's bed. This was so suffocating. Why don't you hide under his bed? It's really enviable. No, it's disgusting. Leon couldn't figure it out. Even if Tony blows up his truck and tells people in the military and political and business circles that he is Iron Man, that wouldn't mean that S.H.I.E.L.D. would directly send Natasha to hide under Tony's bed. Was he going to kidnap him? Or was he going to get on the bed and fight Tony in the dark of night? Leon didn't remember female S.H.I.E.L.D. agents engaging in such low-level lurking. Jarvis, has anyone been here since I left today? After thinking about it, Leon chose to ask Jarvis first. No, Master Lion, after you left, I blocked all entrances. Chapter 36, Kidnapping Stark. Everyone, the sewers and the like are also closed. In other words, has anyone blocked you today? I have kept running, and there is no record of being blocked. However, the sewer shouldn't be considered an entrance. Jarvis got stuck. Look, the artificial intelligence like Jarvis is confused. Who would be a good person to climb into the house from the sewer? However, look at the wet Natasha under Tony's bed. Where else could she have crawled in from a sewer? When Tony goes to bed tonight, he will probably be able to smell the body fragrance left by the beautiful woman. Leon whispered his blessing to Tony. Thinking about the smell of sewers, he laughed out loud. but letting Tony take a whiff was enough. Leon had no intention of letting Natasha stay under the bed. No matter what she wanted to do, since it was already done secretly, it obviously wasn't going to be a good thing. Jarvis asked, "You mean a woman sneaked into Mr. Stark's bedroom?" "Yes, and she is still under the bed with her eyes closed and concentrating." Leon touched his chin with interest. "Let's see what this excellent agent plans to do. Jarvis, cooperate with me later." "Okay, Master Lion." Leon put on an earphone, walked towards Tony's room, and opened the door directly. As soon as he entered the door, he pretended to look around and deliberately stepped hard. "Jarvis, are you sure you detected a strong, abnormal smell in Tony's room? It's impossible. He hasn't invited a beautiful woman home in the past few days. Why is there a strange smell in the room?" "Yes, Master. The air system has detected an abnormal odor factor." Jarvis cooperated. "Impossible, unless Tony takes matters into his own hands to solve the physical problem. Where would the smell come from? And I don't think it smells like anything here. Sniff, sniff, yuck." Leon sniffed a few times, then suddenly backed away, holding onto the door frame and retching several times. This was not a planned disguise, but his super sense of smell was very sensitive to the rich, rotten smell in the room, especially after he deliberately sniffed deeply several times, looking for peculiar smells. The sudden stench seemed to penetrate into his abdomen, causing his stomach to churn. "What does this smell like?" "It smells like a dried salted fish that was swollen after being soaked in a swill bucket and then marinated in a cucumber jar for 3 days and nights." Leon gritted his teeth and immediately suppressed his super sense of smell. "Master Lion," Jarvis asked in a low voice in Lion's earphones, "your acting skills are really good. If it weren't for the air system not detecting the abnormality, you almost deceived my judgment." "Logic. No, I did smell a stink. The other party should have used deodorizing chemicals, but the smell still couldn't hide from my nose." Leon rubbed his nose and explained in a low voice, "You continue to cooperate with me," he whispered. Then he covered his nose and walked to the bed and asked loudly, "The smell is indeed a bit strong. What did Tony do?" "Jarvis, did you just say that the source of the smell is under the bed?" "Yes, the diffusion source of odor molecules is under the bed. Do you want me to operate the sweeping robot to clean it?" Jarvis said through the external speaker. "No." Leon squatted down and knelt on one knee. "I suspect there is Tony's life-size doll down there. If you clean it up, he will be angry. So I just took it out and washed it. I can't believe how Tony could get rid of such a smelly thing." He held the edge of the bed with his left hand and reached under the bed with his right hand, pretending to take something out from underneath. "Call out." Suddenly, something unexpected happened. Leon's right hand was about to reach under the bed. A jet-black soft whip was thrown out from the blind area of vision and wrapped around Leon's arm 3 times, like a python strangling the enemy. The next moment, there was an insignificant force coming from the soft whip. Leon calculated it, and it was about 2.5 times Tony's arm strength. But for ordinary people, this can already be called a huge force. Leon couldn't help but feel surprised. Natasha used such great strength, coupled with the sudden force. It was enough to crack the bones of ordinary people's hands. If he attacks so harshly, he must be more than just lurking. Is it possible that S.H.I.E.L.D. really wants to take action against Tony? The distraction in Leon's heart dissipated a little, and now the testing had to continue for the time being. He pretended to be caught off guard and exclaimed, falling in the direction of the soft whip. "Ah!" He cried out in pain as he fell on his back. The next moment, Natasha sprang out from under the bed like a poisonous snake emerging from its hole. Or rather, it slipped out. She kicked hard on the bedpost and used the reaction force to slide out against the ground, her legs wrapped around Leon's waist as if they were boneless. "Then push your hands toward the ground and exert force on your waist." She actually held Leon between her legs and threw him in the air, then slammed him down to the ground. Bang! There was a heavy slamming sound, and Leon screamed in pain, and then realized that his posture actually hit the back of his head, so he immediately closed his eyes and began to faint. Natasha took a breath and took a casual look at Leon's shoulder, confirming that the target was unconscious. She's extremely confident in her skills. Her training and fighting since childhood made it impossible for her to be able to kill ordinary people instantly. Nice chest muscles. She also glanced at Lion's chest, patted it with her hands in surprise, and finally made a comment. Madam, you have now violated Stark's private property and personal safety. Please stay away from Mr. Lion and leave here immediately. Otherwise, I will notify the police immediately. Jarvis threatened tacitly. Oh, really? Natasha pulled out a black tactical backpack from under the bed and took out ropes and firearms. She waved the gun and said, "If you call the police, this gun will be pointed at your young master." After saying that, she ignored Jarvis and shot several times to smash various electronic devices in the room. Then she turned over Leon and tied him up with ropes. She even checked Leon's vital signs and confirmed that he was just in a coma and not life-threatening. The headphones worn by Leon were also discovered and destroyed by her in the process. Then she stood up and pressed the communicator in her cochlea to start reporting. General Dreykov, Natasha is reporting. After waiting for a few seconds and getting permission from the other party in the communication, she spoke again. There was an accident in the mission. The target's younger brother, Leon Stark, discovered me using home artificial intelligence. Now, please change the plan. Instead of kidnapping Tony Stark, we will use Leon Stark to threaten the other party in order to obtain energy and armor technology. After a few seconds, a flat male voice came from the other end of the communication. Agree to change the plan. Copy that. Natasha's eyes were unwavering, with neither hatred nor joy. She took out the communication device from her ear and prepared to implement a new kidnapping plan. However, when she turned around, she saw Leon, who was supposed to be unconscious. He didn't know when he opened his eyes and looked straight at her. It sounds like you're not working for S.H.I.E.L.D. now. Leon's expression was intriguing. That would be interesting. Chapter 37, Studying Natasha in Slices. You just mentioned General Dreykov. If I remember correctly, he should be the leader of the Red House, right? In Natasha's horrified eyes, Leon easily broke free, and the rope tied to his body broke into several pieces and scattered on the ground. That means you are still under the control of the Red House. Leon stood up and patted himself. This is very wrong. At this time, you should be. Leon couldn't say anything else. The moment he lowered his head, Natasha launched an attack without hesitation. Even though the person she faced was so strong that she could easily break the high-strength polyethylene rope. Her movements were so swift, like a spider hunting its prey. It was as if when she took action, the other party was already caught in her net and could not escape. Faced with Leon, who was obviously far stronger than her, Natasha's attack was extremely cruel and went straight to the vital point. Using speed to defeat strength is the skill she has used as a woman to defeat powerful enemies countless times. Her fists, elbows, and knees landed on Leon almost in no particular order, really using her body to the limit. However, this surprise strategy, which always works, encountered Waterloo this time. Natasha's face was full of shock. Leon, who looked to be only 17 or 18 years old, actually blocked all her attacks at a faster speed, even using only one hand. After that hand lightly grasped her fist, she couldn't break free even if she tried her best. It was as if what grabbed her fist was not a hand, but a cold hydraulic clamp. Natasha's expression turned doubtful, but her rich combat experience allowed her to react immediately. She kicked off her feet and jumped, intending to step on Leon and break her joints to escape. Hey, don't do that. I don't want to accidentally tear you in half because of your resistance. Natasha's body was no better than a piece of paper to Leon. If he inadvertently loosens his control of power during physical contact, the next scene can only be described as horrific. While talking, Leon wrapped Natasha with a biological force field, fearing that an accident would destroy Tony's bedroom. But Natasha didn't know this. She just found out. Leon, who had always looked calm in the face of her violent attack, actually changed his expression at this moment. This made her doubtful. Is the other party afraid that she will get hurt? Who is the super agent who sneaked into the other party's house? Natasha couldn't understand. But the next moment, a huge force came along the arm. She was instantly pressed against the wall without any resistance. This time Natasha tried her best, but she couldn't move an inch. She tried yoga to escape, or tried to break off her arm to survive. She mutilated herself several times to seek opportunities to counterattack. But in front of the majestic force behind her, all her struggles were in vain. Like an ant baring its teeth and claws in front of a giant. Slowly her eyes changed, becoming sad, desperate, and even relieved. Almost uncontrollably, she raised her right middle finger and bent it toward the inside of her wrist, trying to trigger a ring device on her wrist. What else do you want to do? Suddenly, the back of her neck was pinched, and a big hand pinched it gently, and she immediately lost consciousness. It seems that only in this way can our Black Widow sister be willing to be quiet for a while. Leon supported Natasha from behind, who had collapsed after being unconscious, picked her up in a different position, pushed the door open, and walked out of Tony's bedroom. Master Lion, it's great that you're okay. Jarvis immediately expressed concern. All the electronic equipment in the bedroom was destroyed by Natasha, and he knew nothing about what happened inside. Come on, Jarvis. You know nothing will happen to me. It is my duty to care about your safety. Jarvis said, do you need me to call the police for you and hand over this intruder to the police? No need. I think this matter is not simple. There should be some secrets about this intruder. I have to take her down to study it. Leon said he was curious. Why did the Marvel story that was supposed to develop linearly have an accident with Black Widow? Is it possible that this world is not the main Marvel movie universe, numbered 1999, but a branch universe like What If? But this is unlikely. After all, the plot characters he has seen so far all look almost the same as in the movie. He walked down the stairs with a guess. By the way, when Tony comes back, remember to tell him to order takeout. I should be in the lab tonight. Okay, Master Lion. Jarvis asked thoughtfully. Do you want me to turn off the laboratory monitoring equipment for you? Leon's face darkened. Open it. Leave it open. What do you think I'm going to do? It's up to you, Master. Jarvis's tone did not waver. Shut up. I just want to check her out. Leon carried Natasha into the laboratory, cleared the workbench with his right hand, and placed her on it. Then he took off his coat and put on a pair of white medical gloves. His movements were a bit unfamiliar, and he looked like an amateur anatomist, quite like a medical student who was learning anatomy for the first time. However, no matter how amateur he was, he became a top player after opening his clairvoyant eyes. The first is a full body examination. Let me take a look. Oh, wow, she has a really good figure. As expected of Natasha, she has slim shoulders and big buttocks. She's very beautiful. Ahem, let's look at other parts first. Leon said that he is not a person who likes to take advantage. He got rid of distracting thoughts and quickly entered the state. His eyes penetrated Natasha's skin and saw the flesh and fascia wrapped in the skin. Well, it looks like there is nothing wrong with her body. There are no bombs or poison bags. There's a locator on her right leg. And on top of that, is this a self-destruct device on your wrist? Leon rubbed his chin. So, she actually wanted to commit suicide using a self-destruct device just now. Suicide if the task cannot be completed. Such an extreme approach is obviously not Natasha's style. In the movie, Natasha Romanoff will sacrifice herself to save others, and she will also give up her life to protect her companions. But only when facing an enemy that she couldn't defeat, she wouldn't even think of giving up, let alone committing suicide. So is it being controlled? I remember watching the Black Widow movie in a hurry in my previous life. Natasha's sister was chemically controlled by the Secret Service organization Red Room, but that's a timeline 10 years later. At this time, normally Natasha shouldn't even be in the Red Room. Leon's eyes moved to the top of Natasha's head. He passed through layers of blood vessel networks and brain tissue and examined them carefully, but could not find any problems. Is my clairvoyance level not high enough? Or is her brain not under control? When encountering a problem that he didn't understand, Leon was eager to try. He quickly moved to Stark Industrial Park and brought in a series of special instruments, such as microscopes, magnetoencephalogram detectors, and brain readers. A dozen huge machines surrounded the workbench. Leon geared up. Now it's time to test my learning results in the past few days. In the past few days after solving the Ten Commandments gang, he was not just basking in the sun. In my free time, I occasionally took the time to learn some biological knowledge. But I didn't expect that this knowledge would come in handy so quickly. Leon first defused the bombs and trackers on Natasha, and then began to extract cerebrospinal fluid and brain cells for research. The brain is functioning normally, the neuronodes are normal, synaptic transmission is normal. He checked one by one, his hands controlling the instruments on the workbench so fast that afterimages even appeared. During the observation of a cell slice, he only needed to take a glance at the entire image to record it, and then immediately draw an analysis conclusion. Sometimes when he encountered unclear details, he asked Jarvis to help search for relevant papers on the internet. During the research process, Lion's relevant knowledge reserves have been rapidly improved. He couldn't help but think silently in his heart, thanks to Natasha Romanoff. This great female agent used her brain for free to help him learn while experimenting within an hour, and successfully grew into an excellent neurologist, chemist, and brain scientist. What a selfless dedication to science. Oh, I found it. At a certain moment, Leon, who was sitting in front of the microscope, shouted happily. He dared to say that when he was basking in the sun every day, he didn't feel as accomplished as he does now. There is nothing that can give people a greater sense of accomplishment than reaching the top of a field through their own efforts and solving a problem in a very short period of time. Master Lion, what did you find? Jarvis is a qualified admirer. I found the cause. Leon was slightly excited. There are no problems with Natasha's brain structure or organization. But in her cell fluid, I found a foreign chemical substance. Lion printed out a brain view. This chemical is affecting her basal ganglia, thereby affecting her consciousness. If I'm not wrong, she actually still has self-awareness, but it's just been divided into several parts by the drug. Some of them follow other people's orders, and some of them are her own thoughts. This kind of chaotic consciousness will allow her to maintain logical thinking, but lose emotional judgment, so that she can only listen to others. The person who researched this chemical substance is really a genius, but he is also a devil. Leon, clear the desktop again. The next step is to create targeted inhibitors. Maybe when she wakes up, we can have unexpected gains. Chapter 38, 1% probability for Lion. It is a very simple matter to know the cause of the disease and work backwards to find the solution, as long as the basic conditions permit. Now that it is clear that Natasha is indeed subject to mind control, and the method of control is a certain chemical substance, the rest of the process of reverse deriving the inhibitor formula seems to be a piece of cake. Leon used his supercomputer-like brain to quickly simulate various plans, and then handed it over to Jarvis for realistic simulation. It only took him 20 minutes to produce a tube of bright red reaction reagent. The success rate is 87%, right? Leon sucked up a tube of medicine with a syringe. Yes, according to the simulation, there is a 12% probability that the medicine will not work. A 1% probability that the medicine will conflict and cause the intruder to be brain dead. Jarvis said, but this is the limit of what can be achieved with current medical technology. Lion shrugged. He looked at Natasha and said, if conditions permit, we should actually even conduct a phase 3 clinical randomized double-blind trial. That is the formal process of drug development. But looking at this patient's condition, I'm afraid we don't have the time to wait for us to find volunteers for experiments. On the workbench, Natasha was already awake and was desperately tearing at the rope around her body, trying to resist. Leon stood aside and pushed the syringe unmoved, and a stream of liquid gushes out from the sharp needle. Stop struggling. The injection is coming soon. Be careful not to break the needle. Besides, you tied me up once, and I'll tie you up again now. It's even. Ms. Natasha must understand, right? He looked into Natasha's bloodshot and red eyes as she struggled, ignoring the fact that her mouth was sealed with tape. Very good. Our patient acquiesced, and she chose to receive treatment. But please be mentally prepared. He flicked the syringe to disperse the air bubbles inside. After all, I am Dr. Ulizzi. Although the medicine may cause brain death, as long as it works, why bother? If there is an accident, we will call it survivor bias. In his previous life, Leon was actually a man who cherished words as much as gold. It's just that this life has been influenced by Tony Stark for more than 10 years. Although he is still the serious young man most of the time, at some critical moments, he will occasionally become as bad as Tony. The inhibitor has to be injected into the arm. Do you want to take off your clothes or tear off your sleeves? I understand, tear off the sleeves of the combat uniform, right? Leon tore off Natasha's sleeves, used his strength to control the patient so that she could not move, and applied alcohol to her white upper arms. Very good, Natasha. Now is the final step. You still have 1 second to consider whether to give up the treatment. 1. The good time has come, and you agreed to continue. Great. But time is running out now. If your family members sign it, you don't have to find someone. If something unexpected happens, we will directly cremate you and transport your ashes back to the Red House. Natasha's eyes suddenly widened, and she moaned something. Huh? What are you talking about? No need for anesthesia? Don't worry. We don't have anesthesia prepared here. I'm starting the injection. Leon casually pricked Natasha's alcohol-smeared arm with a needle. The bright red medicine was quickly injected into the patient. Okay, it's over. It doesn't hurt, right? Our treatment session was incredibly short. You still need to press the injection site to prevent bruising, but it seems inconvenient for you, so I'll do it for you for the time being. Leon took out the empty syringe and pressed Natasha's arm with a cotton swab. However, after putting the syringe back on the tray that was held by the robot hand, he stopped talking. Instead, he looked at Natasha with a slightly serious expression. Leon's mental activities at this time were not as fancy as the words he spoke. He was just thinking. As one of the main characters in this world, Natasha should not be able to hit the 1% chance. Besides, the counteraction potion is already the best he can do at present. Even if top doctors were summoned from all over the world, they would at most be able to reduce the fatality rate of the drug by a few tenths of a percentage point. Not much better. When the chemicals in Natasha's body were synthesized, the researchers probably never thought of formulating an antidote. What they want to create is a control potion that has no solution. Even more than the life of the person being controlled, they care more about the fact that the potion cannot be cracked. Those chemicals are hidden in the cell fluid of Natasha's brain cells, and their removal means brain cell death. It also means that the brain is damaged and the person being controlled is in danger of death. Therefore, the fact that Lion created the inhibitor is a miracle. As for the fatality rate of another 1 percentage point, it is completely harmless. It seems that the inhibitory potion has taken effect. Leon took off his gloves, ran through the disinfectant, then took the disinfectant cotton towel handed over by Benben and wiped his hands clean. He looked at Natasha, whose expression quickly calmed down, and prayed silently for her for a second. Jarvis, do you think that if she really steps on the 1% chance of brain death, should she be considered lucky or unlucky? While waiting for the results, Leon had an idea. From a probability perspective, a 1% chance of hitting the target should be considered very lucky. Jarvis answered seriously, but judging from the results, if you end up with the smallest chance of death, this is very unfortunate. Your views are really objective. Leon complained, but humans don't think like you do. When a disaster happens to you, no matter how small the chance is, it becomes a 100% nightmare. It is an absolute misfortune. It turns out that this is human thinking. Jarvis wrote it down. I'll try to think like this in the future, Master Lion. That's not necessary. Mechanical thinking is your advantage. Nowadays, many little girls like this one. Oh, Natasha wakes up. Leon saw Natasha's silky eyelashes trembling slightly and immediately walked to the tool table and took a closer look. Soon, Natasha opened her eyes. Her amber pupils were dazed, and her expression was distracted. But Leon laughed instead. That's the look in his eyes like a fool. Miss Natasha, congratulations on your successful operation. The blank look on her face meant that Natasha's brain was out of control of chemicals. All her scattered consciousnesses gradually began to reunify into one. However, it seems that this integration process will take some time. Leon observed Natasha's changes and easily pulled off the rope on her body and the tape on her mouth. It's different from Lion's joy. As soon as Natasha opened her eyes, she saw an extremely close face, looking left and right in front of her. Her pupils shrank suddenly, and her body moved reflexively. Having lost her restraints, she just freed her hands and feet. She wrapped her legs around Leon's strong waist using juggling skills, and when she exerted force on her arms, her whole body rotated behind him with Leon as the axis, and she used a naked choke. This is the physical memory brought about by more than 10 years of agent training and combat experience. After finishing the naked choke, she immediately applied force reflexively. However, Leon, who was supposed to be suffocated, did not respond. Her arm seemed to be stuck on a diamond. Natasha was stunned for a moment, and the next moment fragmentary memories came to her mind. Her expression suddenly became dull, and her eyes lost focus. It wasn't until Leon reached out to lift Natasha up and put her on the workbench that she came back to her senses. You saved me." Natasha looked at Leon in front of her with a gradually complicated expression. Her hands were resting on her sides, and she slowly lowered her head. "What have I done? I thought I would be controlled by the Red House for the rest of my life. But unexpectedly, by mistake, I was saved in the hands of the mission target." At this moment, when she regained consciousness, countless memories came to her mind. She had mixed feelings, including regret and hatred, but mostly anxiety. "You look like you're recovering well," Leon said. Natasha woke up when she heard this. She sat on the workbench, suddenly at a loss. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, I'm sorry. I just did it unintentionally. It was subconscious. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. You have injured?" Chapter 39, You Can Come to Me. Whatever you want to do, Natasha's words were a little messy. It can be seen that her mood swings are very unstable after she has just recovered her memory. Especially when Leon had just saved her, she took action ungratefully. This brought back some deeply hidden memories in her, making her feel ashamed and uneasy. "Don't mind." Leon waved his hand indifferently. "It was an unintentional mistake. Besides, you can't hurt me." Natasha clasped her hands and suddenly remembered that she had been subdued by the man in front of her before without any power to fight back. She will probably never forget that kind of power that crushes all skills. She subconsciously looked around with her peripheral vision, trying to calm down. "Thank you." Natasha glanced at Leon's body without any trace, but shook her head and thanked her again. "Thank you for saving me, and thank you for not minding my offense just now." Leon was about to say something, but Natasha kept talking. "Maybe this is just a piece of cake for you, but it means a lot to me." Natasha looked very sincere. She got off the workbench and looked at Leon. "You gave me a second chance at life, Mr. Stark. And it's not just me." Natasha's expression became solemn. "There are other widows. We all owe you our lives." Agents bred by the Red House are called widows. The best among the widows, the one who can break the previous record, is named the Black Widow. It is one of the most ruthless and venomous spiders in the world. The same is true for the agent who is given this title. There is no way to repay life-saving kindness. "If you need help with anything in the future, just ask," Natasha said seriously. "I will do my best." She gently touched Leon's cheek with her hand and breathed warm breath on the strong jawline. "But please forgive me for having to leave now." Her expression became tangled, reluctant, and extremely painful. "If you disconnect from the Red House for too long, they will come after you. I can't drag you down. Others need me to save them too." Natasha made a decisive move, and as soon as she woke up and regained consciousness, she began to plan revenge on the Red House. Determination flashed in her eyes, and she suddenly stood on tiptoe and kissed the side of Leon's face gently. "Thank you, Leon." Her voice was so gentle, like cotton wool being blown by the wind, and like saying goodbye to her lover with full love. After the kiss, she slowly retreated step by step, looking at Leon steadily with her jade-like eyes. It's like the princess in the fairy tale who was kissed from her sleep by the prince, but had to face the evil mother alone. After retreating to a distance of 5 meters, she turned around sharply, leaving a lonely figure behind. The back view is so lonely and resolute, vividly highlighting Natasha's psychological characteristics of being willing to sacrifice heroically for her companions and running into the sea of fire for her savior. Leon looked at Natasha and touched the side of his face. His reflection on the laboratory glass seemed stunned and dazed, like a young boy who suddenly fell in love. "Wait, Natasha," he called suddenly. Natasha's determined back paused, and she turned her head slightly, leaving behind a half-sad profile. "Sorry, Leon, I have to go." "No. I mean, we're not that familiar yet, so it's quite appropriate for you to call me Mr. Stark." Leon sighed and pinched his nose. Then he whispered, "The smell of rotten fish is really strong." At this moment, Natasha was completely frozen, standing in place like a wooden figure. It took her a few seconds before she turned around with a hesitant look on her face. "Call you Mr. Stark?" It seemed like she didn't hear Leon's complaints about her body odor. "That's right." Leon leaned against the workbench. "Natasha Romanoff, born in 1984, is the best Black Widow bred by the Red House. She has dozens of alternate identities around the world and is a single soldier. Master of psychological warfare. Facing one of the world's top agents like you, I was really flattered to be called by my first name and kiss goodbye. I have to say it a really good charm technique." Leon joked. "Just a little bit away, I will rush up to hug you, and then say that I will accompany you through the mountains of swords and seas of fire ahead." Natasha's eyes changed. She realized that her little thoughts had been read. The hesitant expression gradually calmed down. "Wow, I didn't expect that the second young Master Stark, the most mediocre in the information, would be so secretive. Are you a CIA agent? Please, this is the internet age. I have what you call home artificial intelligence. A lot of information is easy to collect. Also, what does it mean to be the most mediocre? I was admitted to Columbia University." Leon paused and spread his hands. "Look, Natasha, I know your past. And I'm not a rich boy who still fantasizes about fairy tales when he's grown up. So playing hard to get is really unnecessary. Although you seem to be just acting casually without any intention. But can the way we talk be simpler?" Leon stood up, waved a bin, and ordered 2 cups of coffee. He handed the coffee to Natasha. "Drink something hot. When was the last time you drank coffee consciously? Don't tell me it was 10 years ago." "Huh." Natasha didn't show any embarrassment and took the coffee with a natural smile. "Thank you. The last time I drank coffee like this was a year and a half ago." Leon raised his eyebrows. "So you were completely controlled by the Red House more than a year ago? You seem to know a lot, Master Leon." Natasha walked up to Leon, leaned against the workbench with him, and looked at him with her head half raised, looking petite and soft. She is using little tricks to seduce Leon again. "Don't be like this. Is it a habit of yours to seduce others to obtain information?" Leon pointed to the coffee cup. "If you have any questions, you can ask directly. This can save a lot of testing costs." Natasha is indeed a stunner among stunners. Now in her mid-20s, her every move is naturally charming, and her every move and smile can captivate people. However, Leon had just seen Natasha's blood-viscous internal organs and red and white brain, and smelled the smell of her getting out of the sewer. Therefore, he does not have that kind of whimsical desire in a short period of time. I didn't expect that as the younger brother of the most famous playboy in the United States, Master Lion is still a gentleman. Natasha put away her charming smile and looked much more serious. As a psychological master, what she knows best is to give in to others. Leon's current pursuit is to exchange information efficiently, and she is happy with this. That's not necessarily true. It's just that the time is wrong now. You can try it on another occasion next time. I will definitely be fooled." Leon took 2 sips of coffee and said, "By the way, don't play out the scene of the ignorant girl's farewell just now. Only the young and rich second generation will be tempted by that kind of story. I suggest that when you attack me, you just wear black stockings. More effective." "Good suggestion. I will definitely try it next time." Natasha nodded. "So, Mr. Stark, why do you know so much information about me?" She added, "Don't tell me that it was found by artificial intelligence. Most of the information is confidential on paper and is not accessible online. So that's it." Leon crossed his hands and said, "I'm sorry, I can't comment on this matter. It's a secret." Natasha tilted her head. "Is this what you call a direct question? Just because you ask questions doesn't mean I want to answer them." Leon answered the question incorrectly. "Before you ask me, I also want to ask, was that your attitude towards your savior just now? He raised his finger. First you woke up and attacked me. Oh, that was an accident. You did sincerely thank me and apologize afterwards. But after remembering the memory of fighting me before, you immediately started to seduce me again. Then you want me to offer to help and deal with the red house with you, right? The most outrageous thing is that after you turned around, you secretly observed my reaction from the reflection in the glass. Why? I just saved you, and you just said you would thank me. And then you turn around and wanted to drag me into the dragon's pond and the tiger's den. Leon patted his thigh. The contrast between your before and after is so great that it almost makes me feel like I'm being taken advantage of. I apologize. Natasha raised her hands. I apologize again. It's my fault for treating you as an ordinary rich second generation and try to take advantage of you. It's also my fault for trying to involve you. I'm sorry. I just woke up and wanted to find an ally who would make me feel safe. Natasha's face showed a bit of pity. After all, you are so strong and a genius with high IQ. With your help, I have a greater chance of winning. But I promise, if you really chose to help me just now, I will definitely tell you all the real information, although you don't seem to need it. And my previous promise is true. Whenever you encounter trouble in the future, you can come to me for any request, provided that I am still alive. Leon touched his chin. Is it okay to ask you to do some indescribable things? Yes, as long as it's you. I can accept it. Natasha's eyes became extremely firm after a brief tangle. She was serious. Chapter 40 Reasons for Timeline Changes. Leon realized that Natasha was not joking and instead stopped smiling. Okay, there's no need to be so serious. I was just joking. I also take back the disrespectful words I just said. He waved to Benben again. Xiao Benben, come and give this lady some more coffee. Now it was Natasha's turn to be surprised. Are you apologizing to me? To be honest, you're not at all what I thought. Apologize? No, what did you misunderstand? I'm not apologizing. I just maintain my self-cultivation. At least I won't joke about that kind of thing openly. Leon defended. There was doubt in Natasha's eyes. You actually said that. I mean, you are very different. You don't look like a Stark at all. Maybe because I had another education besides Stark? Leon raised his glass and touched it with Natasha. But it's useless no matter how much you praise me. You invaded here and attacked me. I saved you regardless of past suspicions, but you ended up with evil intentions. Just a verbal apology is not enough. You are right. Natasha smiled and drank the hot coffee. But I sincerely praise you. This is the first time I have heard those words just now. It sounds very cultivated indeed. Thank you for the compliment. This is part of my packaging of my own image. Lion shrugged. Such packaging must be very attractive to little girls. Natasha's eyebrows gradually arched. Maybe. Then, should we talk about you and the problem of the red house? Leon put down a coffee cup. What do you want to talk about? Natasha no longer leaned on the workbench. If this is the compensation you want, I will tell you everything. I just have one question. How did you get controlled by the red house a year and a half ago? Leon asked the question that he had been struggling with for a long time. He still thinks about it. After all, this is related to his judgment of the universe in which he lives. This was also the purpose of his treatment of Natasha. How was I controlled? Natasha held the coffee cup, looking a little dazed and struggling. To her, that seemed like a long time ago. During the time she was controlled, she committed too many bloody crimes. In comparison, even those days when she could only act with her own will seemed much better. Asking her to recount her experience at that time was, to her, tantamount to tearing the scars from the inside out. It would be better to charge directly into the battle in a hail of bullets. But after struggling with her expression, she slowly spoke. I was trained and transformed to the Red House when I was a child. They brainwash all girls. It's just that I persisted in the brainwashing and retained my own will. So when I found the opportunity, I tried to rebel, and then I failed. Natasha's eyes were so empty. She looked at the shaking coffee in the cup, but her eyes seemed to have traveled to the past. In order to prevent similar situations from happening again, they no longer just brainwash the girls, but start using chemicals to control us. The process is like this, Natasha said very briefly, as if to say that to put an elephant into the refrigerator You only need to open the refrigerator and put the elephant in again. Leon grasped the key point. You are so capable. Why did the rebellion fail? In the original world line, Natasha should have met Hawkeye around 2006, then launched an attack on the leader of the Red Room in Budapest, the capital of Hungary, and finally successfully defected to join S.H.I.E.L.D. The current situation is exactly the opposite. You can't imagine the power of the Red House. Widows are all over the world. It's impossible for an individual to resist. Natasha's shoulders drooped as if they had lost their support. Almost 2 years ago, I was attacked by S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Hawkeye. It was a good opportunity. I tried to get in touch with S.H.I.E.L.D. through him. It's just... She suddenly raised her head and glanced at Leon. Speaking of which, it has something to do with you. In 2006, your star company released a generation-changing electronic product. Red House made technological inferences from it and used complementary technologies to update the internal smart devices. Natasha tilted her head. So when I contacted Hawkeye, I was monitored the whole time, but I didn't know anything about it. At that time, my communication equipment only had ordinary anti-eavesdropping functions. How could we have expected that Red House's communication technology would make an explosive leap in just a few months? Leon's mouth twitched. The sentimental widow was caught because she fell behind. Civilian technology in the Marvel world lags far behind military technology. In 2006, Tony got his inspiration and used many technologies that were previously only used in military industry to create digital equipment. During that time, Stark Group's new product launches could be said to be once a day. For one consecutive month, Tony advanced the technology of civilian digital equipment that was lagging far behind for some reason in the world by at least 10 years. As if overnight, the world has switched from flip phones to smartphones. Even holographic projections are beginning to appear on the market. Leon still remembered that Obadiah complained at that time, saying that Tony was fishing in the lake, and good skills should be released bit by bit in order to harvest more leaks. Well, modern technology is like this. It explodes when it says it will. It's weird. He took a sip of coffee to hide his embarrassment. Natasha glanced at him resentfully. If Stark Electronic Technology Company could be established half a year later, I might be able to successfully break away from or even destroy the Red House. You're right. Leon continued to drink coffee. Although it makes no sense, it's all Tony's fault for building such a subsidiary. It turns out there is something wrong with the world. It was the flapping wings of his butterfly that blew up a tornado in Hungary. The butterfly effect can actually affect the timeline. Leon was a little speechless, and he didn't know why the timeline had changed so much, but no one had come to the door yet. Even if the Time Management Bureau doesn't come, Gooey won't come either. This left him very confused. However, for now, this world should still be the movie universe he is familiar with. All we can say is that everything is fine in the comic book universe. What happened next? He continued to ask. After my defection plan was exposed, I was quickly besieged by other widows and taken back to the Red House. After being imprisoned for half a year, the Red House used chemicals to control me. I have no choice at all. For more than a year, although I still retain my own thoughts, I have many consciousnesses and I don't know which part is myself. Natasha said, quietly turning her cheek and wiping her face with her back to Leon. In more than 10 months, more people have died by my hands than in the past 10 years. She continued, there are little boys who can't walk, there are pregnant mothers, and there are powerful people. To this day, my hands are stained with blood. Natasha lowered her head, making it impossible to see her expression clearly. Leon subconsciously wanted to say some words of comfort, but it was clear that what Natasha needed was not comfort. Her heart is stronger than most people. But the more this happened, the more painful it became when she was condemned by her inner conscience. In fact, if it weren't for Leon's request for this information as compensation for Natasha, there was no way Natasha would tell her past. Even in the movie, she treats her fellow Avengers as family. She also never mentioned her experience in the Red Room. That was the secret wound in her heart, compared to tearing open these dusty wounds. In fact, she would rather that the compensation proposed by Leon was tit for tat, even if her hands and feet were broken. Then what are you going to do next? Leon waved to Benben to refill Natasha's coffee. Thank you. Natasha thanked Benben and then looked at Leon. If possible, I would like your help. I don't want to involve you in this endless war, but I would like to ask you to help me create some inhibitors, Natasha said with anxiety, or a formula that allows me to save other people. I will definitely find a way to compensate you for your efforts. Leon touched his chin. The inhibitor thing is very simple, but you seem to be planning to rescue a group of widows first and gather enough manpower before declaring war on the Red House. Frankly speaking, he wished the Red House would be troubled. After all, Tony had just exposed his steel armor, and the other party dared to send the Black Widow to sneak into the house to kidnap him. What if Tony held a press conference tomorrow to announce to the world that he was Iron Man? The Red House didn't know what else to do. Regarding this kind of force that is seeking death, Lion's choice is not to let it see the sun of tomorrow. However, it just so happened that what Natasha wanted to do was also destroy the Red House. So it coincided with this, so Leon didn't mind going along with it. Natasha stood up straight. Yes, this is my plan, Mr. Stark. Please believe me. I will definitely. Just call me Leon. You said so many things from your heart. We should be considered friends. Leon interrupted. Natasha paused and nodded. Leon, well, listen to me first. Leon tapped his fingers on the table. Your idea is great, but it's not easy to implement. He said, first you lose contact, and then the other widows will lose contact one after another after you start taking action. The Red House will soon react, and then you will be in a very bad situation. Natasha shook her head slowly. I know, but I have to do it. This is my responsibility. Responsibility. Leon thought for a while. You put like that, I have an idea, a win-win idea for 3. Chapter 41, Superman requests to fight. What's the idea? Natasha was stunned. Leon began to pack up the items on the workbench and prepare to make a batch of inhibitors. I'll help you solve the Red House. How about you take your companions to work for me and serve me? No one can refuse a group of female agents with extraordinary skills who can fly planes and enter kitchens to serve themselves all over the world. I can get the services of a group of top agents. You can destroy the Red House, and the other widows can escape control and find new homes. A win-win-win situation. As for the win-win mentioned at the beginning, Leon himself not only achieved the goal of destroying the Red House, but also gained a group of subordinates by the way. He won twice. What do you think of my proposal? As he spoke casually, Leon kept moving his hands. His hands left an afterimage on the workbench, but each operation was extremely precise, and the ratio of each milliliter of reagents was perfect. Natasha watched in amazement. How are you going to solve the Red House? Do not know why. She didn't have any doubt about Leon's words. From the bottom of my heart, I feel that as long as the other person is willing, it would definitely destroy the Red House that made her tremble. So you agree? Leon asked without looking back. Natasha was silent for a few seconds. I agree. After destroying the Red House, I will cooperate with you to persuade other widows to join. But I can't guarantee that they can agree. As for me, I am yours now. Natasha's crispness made Leon stop what he was doing. Are you serious? He turned around slightly in shock. You don't even want to ask what I want you to do? What is this inexplicable trust? Generally speaking, shouldn't we make a 3-part agreement with him after careful consideration so that he cannot order the widows to do anything that violates morality? Leon had to admit that Natasha had a good sense of proportion. Natasha shook her head. Believe me, as long as you can destroy the Red House, they will be willing to do anything for you. What about you? Leon asked. I said from the beginning, I owe you a life. Natasha put her hands on the table, approached Leon, and looked into his eyes. I will do whatever you ask me to do. If I can't do it, I will have to give my life back to you. Her breath sprayed on Leon's face. Natasha's charming eyes are as silky as silk, and she really grasps the man's desire to conquer. What she meant clearly was that she would not do anything against her will. But when it came to her mouth, it was euphemistically said that if she couldn't do it, she would pay with her life. Even if Leon heard such words of completely entrusting his life, he might not be able to help but feel moved. Except this time, obviously. Oh, you smell like this. Don't get so close. I've been telling you before that you can use the bathroom in my room upstairs as you like. Now go and clean it up for me. Leon pinched his nose with a look of disgust on his face. Stay away from Natasha, although it suppresses part of the super sense of smell. But as he got closer, Natasha's faint sewer smell still made him feel quite uncomfortable. Me, my taste. Natasha looked dull, as if she had been struck by lightning. Leon didn't explain anything and directly ordered Dai to see off the guests. Dada, push her out and don't let her in until she's washed. Anyway, it's useless for her to stay here while I'm making the inhibitor. Obediently, he rolled the pulley under his feet, put his mechanical arm on Natasha's back, and pushed her out. Natasha was still in a daze until she walked into the bathroom in Leon's room. This was the first time that when she used her charm, she was disliked for being too stinky. Do I really stink? She raised her hand and smelled her armpits. No. The chemical deodorant has obviously covered up the smell of the sewer. Natasha doubtfully took off her combat uniform and clicked on the electronic screen on the wall to release hot water. Well, I haven't had a hot bath like this for a long time. It's so comfortable. Could it be that Leon actually cares about me? Her red lips.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.